Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
I'd like to call this city council meeting of Tuesday, April 5th, 2022 to order. Clerk, can we have a roll, please?
Council members Nitzert,
Here.
Selberg,
Here.
Sale,
Here.
Starr,
Here.
Brecky,
Here.
Erickson,
Here.
Jensen,
Here.
Kylie.
Here.
Thank you. We have 8 attending. Now we're going to have our invocation by Pastor Randy Gehring from Our Savior's Lutheran Church. I'd ask you to rise, and after that, please stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. You are here. At Our Savior's, this has been our theme as we've gathered for worship these past several weeks. It has helped us focus on the places we find ourselves as we make our way through this life. Not so much as a way of highlighting each of the actual places, but as an exercise in recognizing that each place, every place, is a place that God inhabits. We have grown fond of saying, no matter where you go, God is there. Which is to say that God is here tonight. It may seem strange to suggest that God is located in the chambers of city government. We like to keep strict divisions between the church and the state, between the holy and the secular. But the God I believe in is not confined to human constructs. Rather, God is bound by the love that the Creator has for the creature. God is bound by a promise made in love long ago. I will be with you always. The good news of this, of course, is that we are never alone. Remember that tonight as you work your way through what looks like a heavy agenda. Remember that just as God has called each of you to these positions of public service, God promises to provide you with what you need to do your work. Remember, too, that because God is here, this place is a place where God's people may offer thanks and praise, even as issues are debated and votes are taken. You are here. God is here. So let's pray. Loving God, you are here as you promised. We praise you for your faithfulness, and we thank you for your many gifts. Bless leaders and citizens alike this night with wisdom, patience, vision, and grace, and assure all of us of your promise to be with us always. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move on. Is there any, for the consent agenda, any changes to consent agenda?
Move approval.
Second, Jensen.
Moved by Jensen, second by Selberg. Any discussion? Can we have a vote, please?
Council members Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr, Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson, Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Motion is passed 7-0. Let's move on. How about our regular agenda?
Move to approve, Erickson.
Second, Jensen.
Moved by Erickson, second by Jensen. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote, please.
Council members Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr, Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Before we continue with our regular agenda, I'd like to review public input for agenda items. For regular agenda items, comments are limited to 3 minutes unless the item being presented for final adoption, in which case the public input is limited to 5 minutes. For all regular agenda items, comments are limited to the agenda item under consideration only. During the general public input portion of the meeting, comments will be no more than 3 minutes per person, and comments are limited to topics which do not involve agenda items appearing earlier in the agenda, as comments will already be received on those items. Next item, please.
Item 57 is deferred from the meeting of Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. Approval of sub-item 30 from the contracts agreements on the memorandum dated March 11th, 2022. Pending motion, a motion was made by Councilmember Jensen and seconded by Councilmember Kiley to approve sub-item 30. All other items on the memo were approved at the City Council meeting of March 15th, 2022.
Thank you. Is there any from the staff here to speak on this item?
Mr. Chair, we had a full presentation on this earlier, and so it's my understanding that there was not going to be a presentation at the actual council meeting since there was a full presentation earlier. So I don't know if we need a motion or not again, or if it's just a roll call vote.
Well, we already have a motion, but let's get public input. Is there anyone from public who would like to speak on this item?
Scott Harrisman, Sioux Falls. This is something we've been talking about for a while. You know, if you read this item, nobody knows what it is. And none of you guys said what it was. Why isn't it on there? Called sub-item 30. Anybody sitting in the crowd or watching on television would have no idea what the heck this is. Why can't we say it? We're giving money to Forward Sioux Falls. Why isn't that on the agenda item? Why do we have to hide this all the time? They gave a presentation at informational. Maybe some people didn't watch the informational. It's at 4 o'clock. People are working. They have no idea what this is. It's called sub-item 30. Sub-item 30. That's what we call giving millions of dollars away to a nonprofit in this town. Sub-item 30. No explanation. Just, let's skip the presentation, even though nobody might have been here at 4 o'clock to see it. It was a very good presentation, by the way. Let's not talk about it. Let's not. This is a grand example of open and transparent government. Get counselors telling me, the mayor says it. We are the most transparent government ever. Oh my God, my gut hurts. I laugh so hard every time I hear that. This is a prime example. Look at it. I tell the people who got the agenda, look at it. Item number 57. Deferred from the meeting. Approval of sub-item 30. What's sub-item 30? When you had a chance to say what sub-item 30 was, it was, oh, we already did a presentation at 4 o'clock. Hopefully you saw it. Nope. But we have an open and transparent government, folks. So open that we can't even put on the agenda item that this is money for Forward Sioux Falls to do what they want to do. We can't even put it on there. We actually work. I will read these agendas. I've read them for almost 15 years. We work. We have either the clerk's office or the city attorney's office working as hard as they can to make these items not understandable. We are paying tax money to these people, public servants, to purposely write items that we don't understand. Our tax dollars. It is despicable. The one thing I've been disappointed the most in upcoming to this election, that no candidate wants to talk about this. Transparent government. It saves taxpayers money. It makes government more smooth. It makes government get along better. There are numerous benefits to open government, folks. Numerous. but we fight as hard as we can to call something giving millions of dollars away to a nonprofit who helps the community with jobs and et cetera. Millions of dollars away. We call it sub-item 30, and we can't even have a small presentation about what it is. Good work. Great job.
Anybody else for public input?
Good evening, councilors. Mike Lynch, Executive Director of Investor Relations for Forward Sioux Falls. Just want to thank you again for the opportunity to present at the informational meeting. With Forward Sioux Falls, the city of Sioux Falls has been lockstep with us since the inception in 1987, and we value that. We value the collaborative efforts that the city values. We share that. We share the partnerships, and we believe we share the great position that we find ourselves in economically. And although Forward Sioux Falls is never going to take credit for helping solely to lift up the area's economy, we also believe that these types of things don't happen by accident. And it's why we, again, value your past investment and would encourage you to support the investment this year going forward. Thank you.
Any other public input on this item?
Hello, my name's Catherine Riffle. You'll be hearing a lot from me this evening. I agree with the gentleman that come up here and said about transparency. This is a bunch of crap. You're giving all this money away to these different people and everything else. What about the other part of big business? What about the millions of dollars you gave back to the housing you let Christy Noem and that other state attorney get away with? Vehicular homicide, et cetera, et cetera. You don't tell the public the truth about these things, as well as the people in our own city being killed by motor vehicles that are not being held accountable, the drivers. Yet you won't turn around and take the money and put it for the people that need it. And you claim, oh, well, we give to these nonprofits, and the nonprofits are failing the people, and if you can't see that, you got blinders on. But by the way, I know you know what's going on, so it's not blinders, it's total rudeness and ignorance. You just want to up the money so you get a better salary, but everybody else suffers. The COVID comes in, you close small businesses down. What about the new people that just started their businesses, the young people getting out there? You keep saying us older people don't matter. It's the young ones coming up the line. Y'all better get your directions straight here. I intend to speak a lot about a lot of this stuff, and it's going to be repetitious. Because if you're not going to listen at one time, you're eventually going to hear it, and it's going to sink in. I myself am tired of picking up dead bodies downtown. Again, out of the last 10 people that have been killed by motor vehicles, no one's been held accountable, but you'll put this kind of crap out here and not even explain it to the public. I've been at the library, and hours after hours, I'm searching this stuff. But you don't mind giving away all this money. You don't mind having the people's taxpayers' money being doing this. You do all these lot permits and everything else. What's the matter with taking care of downtown people first? You want to give all these licenses to alcohol distribution, but you won't take care of the situation downtown. Stop hiding the truth. When our cops don't even hold people accountable for vehicle homicide. Somebody comes down across the bridge speeding in the rain with no headlights, drunk. No insurance or registration, whatever, but you don't hear about the fact he had no headlights on. You don't hear about the fact of anything else. All you hear is the word transient. You're labeling people. A transient, if you look at the definition, is like a hobo. They move around. These people downtown have not been out of here for 30 years, for Pete's sake. You couldn't help them with all these millions of dollars you want to play these games with? Quit the word games. Be honest, be open. You want us to vote for you this time of election? Prove it to me you're worthy of the seat you're sitting in. And that's all I got to say till later.
Anyone else for public input on this subject? Seeing none, councilors, questions, comments?
I would just
Counselor
like to quickly address the accusation that we're paying our good employees here within the city, and the accusation made by the individual that can't stick around and listen to this now, that they are purposefully writing it in a discernible way. And he can't even stick around now and listen to what's the facts of the matter are. Yes, it was heard at our March 15th meeting. It was heard again at our informational meeting this afternoon. And while it doesn't give a complete description on the agenda that you're looking at, our agenda is posted online, and you click on the agenda item, and it's going to take you exactly to the information that gives you all of the details. Now, it's highly possible that not all of you have a smartphone or the ability to do that here. But there are not very many people that don't have smartphones any longer and don't have the ability to look that up. And the idea to attack our city personnel, I find despicable and very offensive. We've got hard-working individuals up here, and they're doing the best they can, and they're doing what they're supposed to do and the way they are instructed to do it. So if you've got an issue with it, we are the ones. Ma'am, you've had your opportunity to speak.
I got time.
And I'm not addressing you. My comments were not addressed to you.
Well, I know
You've
what
had
I'm
your
talking
moment, so
about.
please sit down.
I'll be back. I know what I'm talking about.
And I will be making point of orders throughout the evening to keep us focused on the agenda items because we are trying to do the business of the city. And if we get off on tangents like we already have, then it's not doing any of us any good. So please be respectful, address the items that are on the agenda, and address them in a respectful, truthful manner. Thank you.
Any discussion on a motion? Seeing none, can we have a vote, please?
Council members Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That motion passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 58, new 2022 retail liquor license for Interactive Holdings Incorporated, VIP Gaming Lounge, 1002 South Cliff Avenue, CUP not required. This is in addition to an existing license. Item 59, new 2022 retail liquor license for Sand Trap Incorporated, Bogies, 811 South Marion Road, CUP not required. This is in addition to an existing license. Item 60, new 2022 retail liquor license for Steel District Office Tower LLC, 150 East 4th Place, CUP not required, pending final inspections per Health and Building Services. Item 61 is a new 2022 retail liquor license and new 2022-23 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm wine license and new 2022 retail wine and cider license for SF Hotel No. 1 LLC, 120 East 4th Place, CUP not required, pending final inspections per Health and Building Services. Item 62 is a new 2022 retail liquor license for Main and Main LLC, Spring Hill Suites, 4304 West Empire Place, CUP not required. This is in addition to an existing license. Item 63 is new 2022 retail liquor license for Tom's Company Real Estate LLC, 8500 West 32nd Street, Suite TBD, CUP not required, pending final inspection per Building Services. Item 64, new 2022 retail wine and cider license for the Country Club of Sioux Falls, 3400 West 22nd Street, CUP not required. Item 65, new 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm wine license for Randall's Kitchen LLC, 114 North Indiana Avenue, CUP not required. Item 66 is transfer of 2022 retail wine and cider license from Wine Time on Main LLC, 330 South Main Avenue, to Wine Time on Main LLC, 114 South Main Avenue, Suite 210, CUP not required. 67 is a transfer of a 2022 package liquor license from Cosmic LLC, 1900 West 12th Street, to Ashby LLC, 1900 West 12th Street. 68 is a transfer of a 2021 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm Wine license and transfer of 2022 retail wine and cider license from SRS Incorporated Spade Connections, 8509 West 26th Street, Suite 100, to Access Entertainment Group LLC, Spade Connections, 8509 West 26th Street, Suite 100, pending final inspections per Health and Building Services. Item 69 is transfer of a 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm Wine license and transfer of 2022 retail wine and cider license from SRS Incorporated Heart Connections, 8509 West 26th Street, to Access Entertainment Group LLC, 8509 West 26th Street, pending final inspections per Health and Building Services. Item 70 is a transfer of 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm Wine license and transfer of 2022 retail wine and cider license from SRS Incorporated Diamond Connections, 205 West 85th Street, to Access Entertainment Group LLC, Diamond Connections, 205 West 85th Street. Item 71 is a transfer of a 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm Wine license and transfer of 2022 retail wine and cider license from SRS Incorporated Club Connections, 207 West 85th Street, to Access Entertainment Group LLC, Club Connections, 207 West 85th Street. Item 72 is a special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Augustana University to be operated at the Elman Center, 2505 South Grange Avenue, for an athletic auction on April 8th, 2022. Item 73 is a special one-day wine license for Active Generations, 2300 West 46th Street, for a special event on April 24th, 2022. Item 74, special one-day malt beverage license for Presentation Sisters to be operated at Falls Park, 305 East Falls Park Drive, for a fundraiser on May 7th, 2022.
Thank you. Jamie?
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. I'm here to answer any questions that you have for items 58 through 74, and I also need to request a motion to withdraw item 63 per the applicant's request.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wish to speak on these items?
Scott Harrisman, Sioux Falls. Just in general, when it comes to licenses and stuff, I was thinking about this the last time the licensing thing came up, the last meeting. I think if we shut every video lottery casino in town down and bulldozed them all, we'd have plenty of space for affordable housing.
Any other public input?
Captain Ripple again. You want to talk about finances that our city council people get, but yet for election you want to get yourselves a raise. I've done my homework. See this? I've done my homework. I put questions into the forum.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. This
No.
you're
No, I can
you have to
explain
address
myself.
the agenda
I knew
items
you were gonna do
dealing
this
with
because I
alcohol
can explain
licenses.
myself.
Then-
Alcohol license, and when you're talking about giving people licenses and all, you aren't looking at what it's doing to the public. You're looking at what it's doing for a license to keep the business going. I'm not dumb and stupid. I got a whole daggone bag over there of all the certificates I've earned in my lifetime and all the things I've accomplished. When you keep pushing booze, you got to push the fact that people need help to go along with it. Now, open up your eyes. I'm not going away. You want to shoot me out of here? Go ahead. I'm still coming back. I will go to the newspaper. I will put it on the internet. I will do what I got to do. It's election time. Stop trying to shut us up.
Anyone else for public input on this subject?
Sierra Broussard, Sioux Falls. We're not here to support or not support casinos. There is some casino owners that have commercial and residential property. So when we say we're gonna bulldoze down all of the casinos to put affordable housing, I know an owner that owns a casino and residential properties. And he also accepts Section 8 from Sioux Falls Housing. So I'm not gonna be putting people's business out there because not everybody needs to be exposed to it because that's his business. Just like alcohol, people drink in moderation. The bar is supposed to control the alcohol before it gets to a level of police contact. Just like casinos, you have to monitor them. They have to do their part to monitor them to get the call volumes down in that area. And I'm always going to say this because MG Oil is on that agenda. And they have a lot of casinos that they have taken and changed it around 100% for the call volume. And they have some in my area, Pedigree Neighborhood Association. So I'm not going to say I'm for or against casinos, or I'm for and against alcohol with casinos in residential areas. But I will say that if it is managed correctly and monitored correctly and ran right, we don't have problems in residential areas or any casinos there of the matter. Housing is always going to be an issue. These people make it a living to have casinos. It is their right to have a casino. And I'm not saying they could be millionaires, who cares? But 50% of the earnings has to go to the state, and then they can keep 50% of the earnings. Nobody is telling these people to go to casinos and spend your whole paycheck and become homeless. If you got a gambling addiction, then you go seek help for it. Nobody tells you to go in a bar and drink yourself to death over intoxication either. So when people want to bash casinos and say we need to bulldozer them down, and we got casinos on every corner here. Have y'all noticed the alcohol establishments on every single corner here too? That's out of control. I want to say again that I know one casino, and there might be others that I'm not aware of. But before you open up your mouth, the citizens need to be aware that just because people own casinos, they own other properties. Not just commercial, people do own residential properties here. And this guy that I'm talking about might be rich, but for him to own a casino and have residential properties that caters to the vulnerable people and accept Section 8 from the Sioux Falls housing, that's pretty phenomenal, isn't it? So before people run their mouth and want to bash owners on commercial properties, you better dig into them and see how much they own or what's the deal here, because some of y'all don't even have a clue when y'all bashing these people, what they own in the city. So that's all I'm going to say about this.
Any other public input on this subject? Council, any questions for Jamie?
I'll make a motion to withdraw item 63, please.
Second, Kylie?
Moved by Council Erickson, second by Councilor Kylie. Any discussion on removing the item?
Requested by the applicant.
Thank you. We have a roll call vote, please, on that?
Council members Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Brecky.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That motion passed 8-0.
I'll make a motion to approve items 58 through 62 and 64 through 74.
Second, Kylie?
Moved by Erickson, second by Kylie. Any questions on that motion? Look, we have a roll call vote, please.
Council members Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Brecky.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That motion passed 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 75 is second reading, deferred from the meeting of Tuesday, March 8th, 2022, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 111, alcoholic beverages.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer again. I would like to request a motion to withdraw this item. There were significant amendments requested for this ordinance as it was first presented, so we just thought it was best to start over with a first reading, which will be a little later tonight.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Councilors, can I have a motion?
Motion to withdraw item 75.
Second, Kylie?
Motion to withdraw item 75 by Erickson, second by Kylie. Discussion? Councilor Brecky?
Just some brief discussions. I just want to mention that I had a detailed meeting with the drafters of it. I had several concerns with it, and I'm really grateful that they decided to withdraw it and just completely start over. The new version addresses all of the concerns that I raised, and so I was, grateful to be able to work with the administration on getting something in place that I now know that I'm going to be able to support. So just thanks for working with me and working through my concerns on it.
Thank you. Other discussion? Seeing none, we have a vote, please.
Council members Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Brecky.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Motion to withdraw is approved 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 76 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at 2000 East 12th Street from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District to the RT2 Townhome Residential Traditional District number 15943, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Private applicants, Brent Tucker.
Good evening, Council. Jason Bieber representing Planning and Development Services. This is an application and the owner is Brent Tucker representing Affordable Housing Solutions. It's located at 2000 East 12th Street. It's about 0.15 acres in size. And the purpose of this rezoning is the applicant is looking at constructing a twin home on the lot.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this agenda item?
Move to approve.
Second, Kylie.
We got somebody coming forward.
Oh, sorry.
Back to me again, Catherine Riffle here. You want to rezone things? Look at what we got going on downtown. I'm going to say it over and over and over again. Put some money from the city into the people that need it. You don't need to keep opening up zoning and building new places and everything else. You don't need it. You've got enough big business going on around here. It's time to take care of your citizens, no matter what their situation is. If they need housing, then zone a place for housing. How's that sound?
Anyone else for public input? Could I have you guys repeat the motion?
Move to approve, Erickson.
And second, Kylie.
Thank you very much. Discussion? Councilor Neitzer.
Well, just for the benefit of everybody, these applications are brought by property owners that would just like to do something with their properties. So we're just honoring that request. Thank you.
Councilor Starr.
Yes, Mr. Bieber, I just had a quick question. Earlier tonight, we approved an agreement with Affordable Housing Solutions for 3025 North Wayland. How does that fit in the neighborhood?
For a rezoning.
Sorry, I did that. It's sub-item 29 on the agenda. It was for a property to build, to buy, and Brett probably knows better, but it's 3025 North Wayland that we approved the funding. I'm sorry, I caught you.
Oh, you're
off guard.
okay. Is maybe Brent can address that one.
I just want to see how it fits into what else is going on in the neighborhood. The 3025? It's the next item?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. Sorry.
Thank you. Nah, see, it was me got caught off guard rather than you, so I appreciate that. So I'll wait till the next one.
Other discussion? Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Council members Nitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Brecky.
Yes.
Erickson. Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Motion's approved 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 77 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at 3031 North Wayland Avenue from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District to the RT1 Single Family Residential Traditional and the RT2 Townhome Residential Traditional Districts number 15944, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Private applicants, Brent Tucker.
The applicant and owner here is also Brent Tucker with Affordable Housing Solutions. This one is located at the southwest corner of East 31st Street North and North Wayland Avenue. It's about 0.31 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is the applicant is looking at splitting this lot into 2 lots and then construct a twin home on the north lot and then a single family home on the south lot. A neighborhood meeting, as I indicated at the first reading, was held on Thursday, February 24th. Those neighborhood concerns included traffic, increased density on this property. There currently were 2 units before the affordable housing's purchased it. The development wouldn't fit with the rural character. of the existing development and then parking requirements. The applicant's proposal does meet the minimum setback requirements and parking requirements of these specific zoning ordinances. And also, we had a question at first reading on drainage in this area. I spoke with drainage engineering and public works, and they are looking at doing a significant drainage study for the Norton area, either this year or next year, and hopefully we'll identify some of those areas that maybe we need to put some money and improve some drainage up there.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wish to address this item? Seeing none. Counselor Starr.
Absolutely, Mr. Bieber. Well, actually, I wanted to do the drainage first, and then I'll grab you, Brent. Tell me what that means, because that's almost a change in policy, because we've never put money into the drainage, because we've said that it's the property owner's responsibility. Are we just going to do the study and tell them what they need to do, or is this one where we may have to go back and say it's the city's responsibility?
I'll try and speak on what I think we're going for there. Like I indicated in that email that we sent you in 2009, we did do a drainage study up there. That was a little bit focused on retrofitting for a stormwater detention pond, a regional pond we were doing. Typically, we do go into some of these older neighborhoods and we do drainage studies for them to see what maybe they need. And then as a city, we look in, is that something the city needs to put money into retrofit it? Is that something that property owners need to do? But it's probably a study to figure out really whose responsibility any of it is.
Thank you, and thank you for responding to my questions from first reading. The only, if I can, Mr. Chair, just the only other thing I was just going to say is we've already approved the funding for this, so we might as well approve the zoning change, so
okay.
The two will go together.
Counselors, other questions?
Move approval. Second, Jensen.
Moved by Selberg, second by Jensen. Is there discussion? Seeing none, do we have a roll call, please?
Council members Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Erickson? Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes. The motion is approved, 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 78 is a second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located south of East 57th Street and east of South Rateliff Avenue from the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District and C3 Commercial Community District to the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District and C3 Commercial Community District number 15957, 2021, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Private applicants, Ryan Tisdale.
The applicant here is Ryan Tisdall. The owner is Brady Hyde. It's located south of East 57th Street and west of South Veterans Parkway. It's about 0.17 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is the applicant is just doing some minor boundary line adjustments out there for some future retail development.
Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Counselors, questions?
Move approval, Nitzert.
Jensen.
Moved by Nitzert, second by Jensen. Discussion? Seeing none, can we have a vote, please?
Council members Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
The motion is approved, 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 79 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located southeast of the intersection of West Graceland Court and West Graceland Place from the RA1 Apartment Residential Low Density District to the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District, number 15964, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Private applicants, Veldhouse Construction Incorporated.
The applicant and owner is Veldhouse Construction. It's located south of West 12th Street and west of I-29. It's about 0.65 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is the applicant's looking at constructing a twin home on the lots.
Anyone from the public wish to discuss this item? Seeing none, counselors, questions for staff?
Move approval, Jensen. Second, Selberg.
Got a motion by Jensen, second by Selberg. Discussion, council. Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Council members Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes. That vote passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 80 is a second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at 2900 East Rice Street from the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District to the I-1 Light Industrial District number 15977-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Private applicants, William R. Rush.
The applicant here is Chris Matthew. The owner is William Rush. It's located at 2900 East Rice Street, just east of the Rice and 229 interchange. It's about 6.12 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is to match the correct zoning with the current and then the future use of this property. They're doing heavy truck sales and repair.
Anyone from the public wish to address this item? Counselors, questions?
Move to approve. Kylie.
Second, Jensen.
Moved by Kylie, second by Jensen to approve. Discussion. Hearing none, can we have a vote, please?
Council members Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
That is approved 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 81 is a second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located north of Arrowhead Parkway and west of 6 Mile Road from the CN Conservation RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban and the C4 Commercial Regional Districts to the CN Conservation R2 Townhome Residential Suburban, RA1 Apartment Residential Low Density, and C4 Commercial Regional Districts, number 15987-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Private applicants, Willows Edge Estates, LLC.
The applicant and owner here is Clint Ackerman. This is located north of East Arrowhead Parkway and west of North 6 Mile Road. It's about 85 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is they're conducting some minor zoning changes with the commercial and then the existing conservation area. And then they're rezoning on the northeast corner of this property for an apartment complex.
Anyone from the public wishes to address this item? Counselors, questions?
Move to approve, Erickson.
Second, Kylie.
Moved by Erickson hesitantly. Second by Kylie.
Kept turning my mic off.
Any discussion?
No.
Can we have a vote, please?
Council members Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
That motion is approved 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 82 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located north of East 57th Street and west of 6 Mile Road from the AG Agricultural Districts to the CN Conservation, RS Single Family Residential Suburban, RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban, RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban, RA1 Apartment Residential Low Density, RA3 Apartment Residential High Density, LW Live Work, and C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar Districts, number 15982-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Private applicants, Signature Companies, LLC.
The applicant here is Todd Price with Bros Engineering. The owner is Clint Ackerman. It's located at the northwest corner of East 57th Street and South 6 Mile Road. It's about 126 acres. The purpose of this is to subdivide this 126 acres into development with commercial, office, and residential.
Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Counselors, do you have questions? Can I have a motion?
Move approval, Jensen.
Second, Nitzert.
Motion by Jensen, second by Nitzert. Discussion? Seeing none, vote please.
Council members Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Erickson? Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
That motion is approved 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 83 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 111, Alcoholic Beverages. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Wednesday, April 13th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing again. I'm here tonight to share with you the proposed amendments to Chapter 111 Alcoholic Beverages. This slide lists the sections with the proposed amendments that I will be discussing this evening. Due to Senate Bill 156, need arose to amend this section to strike the language in red. Removing the language would simply make reference back to South Dakota Codified Law 35411, which explains the formula used to calculate the licenses on even numbered and decennial years. A definition for public convention hall has been added and mirrors the state law definition. Auditorium and public convention hall on-sale licenses would be a new addition to our ordinances that mirrors a provision in state law which allows the city to issue additional on-sale liquor license for use at municipal-owned public convention halls. The selling, serving, and dispensing of alcohol may not occur more than 1 hour before the event or any time after it's concluded. Municipal golf course on-sale licenses would be a new addition as well. These mirror a provision in state law that allows for on-sale liquor licenses to be issued at municipal-owned golf courses. The number of licenses used for this purpose shall not exceed 2. In 2006, an on-sale waiting list was established because there were more applicants than there were licenses. In 2016, an off-sale waiting list was established for the same reason. In 2019, the City Council voted to discontinue adding names to those lists, and when all names have been offered a license, sections relating to the waiting lists will be repealed and waiting lists will cease to exist. The remaining new sections to this proposal are to propose a lottery system to replace those waiting lists. Anytime new liquor licenses of either type are available, a lottery would be held to select future recipients. The proposed language was modeled after the medical cannabis lottery process. When licenses become available, the city will publish an invitation on its website stating the deadline to submit a lottery application and the location in which they will be received. There will be no less than 30 days between the invitation to apply and the opening of the application window. Notice of the lottery will be posted on the city's website a minimum of 7 days before the lottery is conducted, and it will be open to the public. Lottery applicants that are selected to continue will be notified by email, which will include information that outlines their next steps and the required deadlines that they must meet. The final step in the process would be to submit the uniform alcoholic beverage application and to pay the full license fee. The license request would then be scheduled for a notice of hearing and a hearing date per state law. After receiving City Council approval, the license application is mailed to the State Department of Revenue for issuance. That concludes my presentation. I appreciate your time, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Anyone from the public wish to speak on this alcohol licensing?
Scott Harrisman, Sioux Falls. First of all, I don't know what medical marijuana has to do with alcohol. I don't know why you guys don't get it. They're two different things. You go into a dispensary, you're going to buy it. You're not allowed to use it in the dispensary. You have to use it in the privacy of your home. And it's medicinal. Alcohol and medical marijuana are not the same thing, and I'm tired of hearing this comparison. Secondly, instead of constantly trying to change our alcohol licenses, we should do just like other states. This city is the largest city in the state. You have the lobbying power with the municipal league to go to the legislature and end permanent liquor licenses. It's stupid. A license should never be an investment. I don't put a license plate on my car and go, oh, I paid $100 for that, but in 5-6 years, I can sell it for $500. That sounds ridiculous and stupid, doesn't it? Because it is ridiculous and stupid. You should be pressuring the state and the state legislature to have yearly liquor license fees so more people can use them, smaller businesses, smaller restaurants. And people say, well, what about the people who paid $100,000 for a license? It's simple. You give them two options. We can refund your purchase price of your license, not what you think it's worth now, what you paid for it, or you can use it towards the yearly license. So if you charge $10,000 a year for a liquor license, for 10 years, they don't have to pay the fee. Give them the option. It's really simple to get rid of this. But instead, we waste all this time doing all these different things with lotteries and systems, and we treat a license. You got to think about this. It is nothing, it's not different than having a license plate on your car or any other license. And it's an investment. People buy these licenses, and then a couple of years later, they turn around and sell them for an extra $100,000. It should be against the law, actually, to consider a license an investment. They should never be able to sell a liquor license for more than what they paid for it. They paid $100,000 for the liquor license. That's what they can sell it for. But it should be getting rid of. You know, across the country, they've figured this out, but for some reason in South Dakota, we can't. You know, kind of like getting rid of the food tax, because it's, you know, as one legislator said, it's too difficult to figure this out. I don't know. 90% of the country figured it out. You know? So I would hope, I'm sure you'll pass this because, you know, you get the stamps out, but I hope that you push the legislature to change this stupid way we license liquor establishments.
Anyone else to speak on this subject?
Catherine Ripple here again. I agree to what he's saying about the liquor licenses. They have enough liquor licenses going around. You don't need to profit from a liquor license. If you're going to pay something, you get it going, be dealing with it. That's your business. You don't turn around and turn it over for a profit. Again, as he said, it is not an investment. So open your eyes, look at the things that you got to do, and get her done.
Anyone else to speak on liquor licensing?
Good evening, Emmett Reistroffer from Sioux Falls. I went through the medical cannabis licensing lottery, and just looking back, I think there's a few things we can learn. I just have one suggestion for a minor improvement, I believe. If the goal, you know, I'm an advocate for small business. I believe many of you are. We don't want a process to put big business at a greater advantage over small business if we can prevent that. So my thought, looking through the criteria, there is, you know, I did talk about this during medical cannabis, and I was grateful that the city responded to my concerns to try to tighten it up so people couldn't rig the lottery, for lack of a better word. We have in here language that says only one liquor license lottery application per legal description will be accepted. That is excellent, because that will prevent, you know, 10 applications at the same location. But I think you could take it even a step further as we think about small business, because right now, if I'm a property developer with hundreds of different lots in town, I can now submit hundreds of applications, is how I read it right now. I'm not saying they would, but hypothetically they could, and I experienced during the medical cannabis process, it really did come down to who you knew with real estate, and I worked really hard to go build those relationships, because the more locations, the more applications increased my odds, and I was lucky enough to be selected. And all things considered, I thought the process was really smooth at the end of the day, even though I know I maybe criticized when we were creating it. Looking backwards, the city did a great job, and it was done fairly. Every question was answered. Now you're modeling liquor after that, so I just wanted to point out, I think adding just one more criteria point would make it even a little bit more tighter to be a little bit more fair for the small business. If I've got one spot in town and I want to get my liquor license, I can turn in an application and have the same odds as anyone else. So I think saying only one application per individual or entity will be accepted in addition to one location will create a lot less entrants and make sure everyone has one name in the hat, one shot to get lucky. Because after all, it is luck that dictates it, but let's make sure everyone has equal access to that chance to be lucky. Just my thought. I hope that makes sense, and I'm happy to answer any questions or elaborate further, but that's my time. I think that's pretty much it. So I'm not for or against the ordinance, just knowing if you're going to go in this direction, I hope you'll think about making that possible change. Thank you.
Anyone else to speak on this? Councilors, questions?
Move to second reading, move this item to second reading on April 13th, Wednesday.
Second, Kylie.
Motion to set a date of second reading for Wednesday, April 13th by Erickson, second by Kylie. Discussion? Counselor Erickson?
Thank you. Jamie, thanks for the presentation. I appreciate the changes that are being made. While it might not be perfect, I think that these changes are good. We all know that the list did not work well. It's what we had. We got through the list. And so I'm grateful that all those that were on that list were able to get a license should they had wanted one. The other thing that I want to point out that isn't in the presentation that we've talked about too is one of the things is we had a huge influx at the end of the census year of, I think it was 19 licenses are in that area, which is unfortunate because it really floods the market, and hopefully we can use those throughout the years between the census. And so there was a state law change this year, which does change the formula for us to be able to use the licenses quicker through that. And I think that will be helpful as well. Get the licenses in the hands of the folks that are going to use them. So with that, I hope that you all support this, this ordinance. Thank you.
Counselor Brecky?
Just wanted to point out a couple of things that, were changes that I was really pleased with and that I participated in. I was appreciative of them adding a home rule provision to this because by moving into a lottery situation, I wasn't really clear, and nor was the administration on whether or not that's really permitted under state law. So this is a good place for us to exercise our home rule powers because it clearly wasn't denied under state law. So this is an area where we could do that. So I wanted those provisions in there. They added that. I was also concerned about it being an unlawful delegation of our legislative authority because we are the body that's required to make a suitable place, suitable person determination. And the original language had that happening as a result of the lottery. And they switched that around now so that the lottery just provides a place, it creates a placeholder, and it actually kind of as a list, kind of creates a list. And then, so it operates as a recommendation for a license. Then when it comes to us, then we actually are making that determination, and we're making that based on suitable place, suitable person. So I was really happy with, I think, creatively working together that we figured out a way to do that, that I do think, is a legal way to do it, and it's not an unlawful delegation of our legislative authority. So I'll be supporting it, and I think that is an interesting recommendation that was made and something that we might want to take a look at, and I may consider making an amendment along that line.
Other discussion? Seeing none, let's go for the vote, please.
Council members Nitzert,
Yes.
Philberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That motion is passed 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 84 is a first reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 30, ordinances, resolutions, motions, and other documents requiring council approval by requiring an annotated agenda. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Wednesday, April 13th, 2022. Sponsors, council members Brecky and Starr.
Thank you, fellow council members. I have two initiatives I'd like to bring tonight. One I'm calling a transparency initiative. The other I'm calling a good government practices initiative. The first one is my transparency initiative, and it comes at an interesting time because there's some public input on the last two meetings that kind of addresses it. However, I want to explain that this is a labor of love for me. This has been something I wanted to do when I first started attending council meetings 4 years ago in anticipation of running for office, and I noticed that it was very difficult as a citizen to actually understand the language in the language in the agendas as it was printed, and all the legal, using the legal format. And I, being an attorney, even had a very difficult time understanding, what was really happening on the agenda. Then when I got elected to the city council, we got these red notes. We have an agenda that has red notes underneath them, and that was much easier. My eyes immediately go to the red notes. I know what's going on, and so I began asking the questions, can we create something like this for the public where we put plain language description of what we're doing? Well, in following after that, sometime after that, there was a change that actually required, we actually changed our approval form to require an objective description. And so that took me, that wasn't by me, that didn't happen. I didn't do that, but that happened. And I thought, okay, now's a good time to actually see if we can't take that objective description that's posted somewhere else on the website and actually add it to the agenda. So what I'm proposing to do, and if you want to put this up there, Jim, this is an example of what it will look like. So you can see that the language change is very, very, very short. I mean, that was nothing really to change the language. I'll tell you why it took a little longer to get it in a situation to bring it to you. But the language now reads, the background and objectives shall be posted to the city's website by the clerk's office with, in the added language, with each agenda item and consolidated item into a single annotated agenda. So this is what an annotated agenda would look like. Under each agenda item, you know, there will be what I call a plain language understanding, so that the public can understand more clearly what we're doing. And in credit to, I want to give credit where credit is due. The reason it took so long to get this done, Tom Greco and I have been working on this for about 18 months. And again, the language was simple. The difficulty was we wanted to make sure that all of the city offices, departments, anybody that's regularly bringing items onto agenda, that's writing those descriptions, now understands that those descriptions, you know, are going to be prepared for public use. And so Tom has been working diligently with the various offices and groups as they come in and kind of coaching them on, you know, how to write a good objective description so that hopefully when we transition into this, you know, it'll be an easy transition. So when he reached the point where he felt he'd accomplished that, I said, okay, you know, I'm ready to roll with it. You know, I think it's, you know, it'll be very helpful. And this just shows, you know, it's just a sample of what some some zoning ones would look like. But this will also be with ordinances, and some of the other resolutions, those kinds of things too, will also have that summary incorporated into the agenda. And then if you want to put the final one up there. So this is one, you know, to me that I just use this as an example because it's just one of the most recent ones. And it caught my attention, you know, when we did it that night. These are two agenda items. And it just, I think it explains why a plain language summary would really be helpful. Because, and I'd just like to read them, you know, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls proposing a city charter amendment for the 2022 April election under the authority of Charter Article 9, Charter Amendment, Section 8.01B. And then, you know, you can read the second one. So those are really important things. We actually, those are the headers that we used to propose the ordinance revisions that are now on the ballot. And for just a citizen to read that, I didn't even know what it was that night. I thought, man, that sure doesn't give really very good notice to the public about what we're actually doing. And that's really important when we propose a charter amendment, you know, to be put on the ballot, you know, to taken out to the people. You know, we want to get as much input on that as we can. And this does not create the opportunity for that kind of input because any citizen reading that just probably, it would probably go right over their head. And so that, I use that as an example. Those amendments did get passed. They are on the ballot. But that, I just think we can do a better job of engaging the public by getting plain language in there. We're ready to do it. All we need to do is click the switch. And so I'm bringing it for you tonight and requesting that you move it to a second reading. And again, if there's any questions or concerns, I'm glad to take those. And, you know, if there's anything that needs to be done in between times, I'm glad to do that as well.
Thank you. At this time, we'll take public input on this topic.
Scott Ersman, Sioux Falls. I'm going to give you guys another example besides the one I talked about earlier. It's the last item on your agenda, 96. A resolution approving a temporary furniture zone extension on a portion of East 12th Street. Well, what it is they put a patio out in the street. They did it last year. It's wonderful. I totally support it. But you can see that when I first read this on the agenda, I had no idea what it was. I didn't even have a guess. So I clicked on it. I had to go all the way to the bottom of the attached PDF to see that it was Breaks Coffee Shop's patio that they had last year. That is how ridiculous it is. And I will respond to something that was said to me earlier. You are correct, Counselor Kiley, and I'm going to address him because he's the one who addressed me. You are right. It is not these city employees that are at fault. It's this city council who instructs them to do it this way, and the mayor's office. You have the power to change that. You have the power to get the city employees to do the right thing. You have the power by voting yes on this tonight and showing that the city employees can do the right thing. And that's in your power. So if you vote no on it, I would really love to hear what your excuse is for voting no. Thank you.
Anyone else for public input on this? Counselors, questions? Can I have a motion to set us?
I think you got one more public inputter.
Oh, excuse me.
Catherine Riffle here. I agree with the gentleman that was just speaking. Again, I'm going to reiterate, open your eyes, stop, look, and listen. City council is the ones that can change things. You're here because we voted you in. Now you got to do the job for us. Stop screwing us over and help out and make the city a better place to live, and quit playing word games with these papers and your explanation. It's just ridiculous. With all the education that y'all got and all you do is play word games, get real.
Discussion? Can I have a motion to set a date of second reading for Wednesday, April 13th, 2022?
Move to approve. Brecky?
Second, Star.
Moved by Brecky, second by Starr. Discussion? Seeing none, let's have a vote, please.
Councilmember Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Next item, please.
Next item is item 85, a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 35, Conflicts of Interest of Officers and Employees and Ethics Board to implement a mandatory ethics training program. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Wednesday, April 13th, 2022. Sponsors, council members Brecky and Starr.
Councilor Brecky.
Thank you. This is another ordinance revision, and this I would call, again, a good government practices ordinance is what I would call this. And it is something I've been working on for a very long time. Again, as simple as the language seems, you wouldn't think that it would take almost a year to do it. But I was working with the Board of Ethics on it, and they only meet quarterly. So actually to meet them, I met with them 3 different times. They had some suggestions in the middle. They asked me to do some things on investigation with the administration to make sure that there wouldn't be any high cost responsibilities for executing it, and some other things that they wanted me to do. And then I, finally took it back to them, and they think it's a good idea, and that is stated in their notes and minutes. I asked them to actually recommend it. They were uncomfortable doing that, but they said that, clearly stated that they were supportive of it. So I've addressed all of the concerns that they raised, and then we tweaked the language a little bit, in the year process. So just to explain to you what it does, again, it's really pretty simple language, but there's 3 paragraphs, and that's because there's 3 sections sections of people that need the required ethics training, and that would be the city employees, the city council members, and the board members. And the ethics board members training is determined by the mayor, basically by the administration, and the employees training is determined by the mayor, i.e. the administration, and the council members, their training is determined by the city attorney. And I think that's kind of self-explanatory why it would be done that way, because that is the direct line relationship between us and the legal advisor. So the reason for this, and again, this is something I looked at a couple of years ago when I first came back. I wanted to take a look at the Code of Ethics because it was something that was important to me, that I was really heavily involved in, both at the national level in drafting the model ordinance and then an adoption by the city of this model ordinance. And so I wanted to see how it stood the test of time. And basically when I did some research back into the organization, the International Municipal Lawyers Organization was the one that actually created this model ordinance that our city adopted in total. I came back to look at it and see, again, were there any other adjustments over the years that needed to be made? And I did contact some people who are kind of that are experts in that ethics realm and talk to them, and that we're actually using, this ordinance in a professional capacity. And we're involved also in the IMLA, the group that actually drafted it. And they said basically there really weren't a lot of changes to in those cities that have it, but they said the one thing that cities have added over the years is a training provision. And they said because what cities learned, that without having the regular training provision in there, that people forget and they don't have that top of the mind awareness. So what he was telling me is if you want to create a culture of ethics, if you want people to be thinking in an ethical way, then you need to have some regular training, within, certain periods of time, and that will make it kind of a top of the mind thing for people. They'll kind of always be thinking about it. They'll always be aware of it. And then also, particularly on the employee side, it allows people not to get into trouble, not to have the ethics, the code of ethics become a trap, and for all the other players as well. So again, and also what I discovered in kind of researching it was that we already have training, regular training for the employees. So I just really have just codified that and actually, put some terms at how often it shall happen. And then, again, this was something the Ethics Board asked me to go back and find out logistically how this would work. We also have a training program in place, computerized. There's all kinds of employee trainings. This is already on the list. It would just now require a checkoff. They just check that they did it. And there's already a video that's been created by the City Attorney's Office, and it was fine. I looked at it. It was fine. If he ever wants to modify it, upgrade it, if issues arise, cause it to be embellished, that again is all through the mayor's office. That can be done in conjunction with the city attorney's office. So that, that piece of it was good, but now we just added some regular requirements to it, and it wasn't going to be costly or anything to do. They would simply add it, to the training programs that they already have. And if you want to liken it to the computer training that we get, like the Know Before, it's similar to that. Basically you do it, you check the box, you do it, and then move on. So that's kind of all, can be in place, again, really easy with sort of the click of a switch. And then when it comes to training the council members and the board members, there really wasn't any training particularly taking place. And so I talked to the city attorney's office. Again, I put in flexibility so that they can come up with whatever they want, or they can change it out if they want to from time to time, like if they want to bring in a speaker or some expert or address issues. So it's all flexible within the city attorney's and the mayor's office as to what kind of training the Board of Ethics and the city councilors receive. And so I guess to wrap it up, the other thing that I thought was important, and again, just having it regularly, when I was talking to the city attorney's office, that they could probably do it via video as well. Like the council training could maybe easily be done by creating a video so that when you're elected, then you could, watch the video and check off, or it could be done by presentation, really however they choose to do it, and they might, choose to change it up once in a while as well. Then the Board of Ethics, I think that was the most important to me in validating what the expert that I talked to told me about, was that when in meeting before with the Board of Ethics, it became clear, and in fact, the chairman of the Board of Ethics said, he said that, yeah, that's true. He distinctly remembered that when he became chairman of the Board of Ethics, he was just handed the ordinance and told, okay, here's what you're responsible for. Well, that's a really important board. They have a high level of responsibility, and that's not appropriate for us to give them that kind of a job with that little of training. And I'll just say 3 things and then I'll be done. You know, with just that, it's more than just enforcing the ordinance. It's understanding that delicate balance between First Amendment rights and how they play, the interplay between them and the ordinance, and the United States Supreme Court cases and the different things that they've done. They really need some training in that understanding. And, you know, so, and then they also need, you know, some further training on the different kinds of ethics. There's personal ethics, there's corporate ethics, there's government ethics. They need to understand those things. So I'm hoping I'm doing a good enough job of explaining to you, you know, why I think that this is appropriate and important. And again, if you've got any questions, I'm glad to take them. But this is I just really view it as a necessary revision. It's just what we figured out after the fact, that people have learned that in order, if you really want to have that culture of ethics, then you need to have, you know, some constant and continuous training.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item?
Scott Ersman, Sioux Falls. This is way past due, and I know that Janet has been working on this for probably longer. She says a year, but probably longer than that. And I'll give you some examples. We had an impeachment hearing of a counselor. Should have been a counselor and somebody else, but it was only the counselor for taking money from a partisan group. We've had ethics rulings thrown out in the dark of the night. The ethics board just throws them out and nobody knows what they were. Public doesn't know. After what I saw today happened at the informational meeting and the text message from the mayor to a counselor, another example why we need some ethics training. And watching this campaign, the ethics of some of the people running for office. And I'm not talking about the non-incumbents. They've all played fair as far as I'm concerned. It's been watching, you know, a certain incumbent just take advantage of anything that they possibly can, you know, inside information. That's unethical. And it's pretty obvious that you guys need the training. Couldn't be more obvious after what I watched at the informational today. This is long past due. And there's nothing wrong with learning something different or something new to improve yourselves as counselors. You guys you fly all over the country going to meetings and you sit and talk to other people about different ideas. You know, what's wrong with taking ethics courses? You might learn something. It's done all over the country too. Janet didn't pull this out of a hat. This is something she researched. It's done everywhere. It's a good idea. And like I said, we are an ethically challenged city on many, many levels. I mean, we can just talk about the recent arrests. I think there's been 4 arrests now over the past couple of months of city employees. So, city employees, counselors, mayor's office, everybody should do this. It's a wonderful idea. I wouldn't know any reason why anybody would want to vote against this. Thank you.
Anyone else for public input on this subject?
Where's my, no offense to Jenny Brecky at all, but I want to point out it took 18 months to do this. And all of a sudden it's coming election time, and now she wants to propose this. Okay? It cannot wait a week, and you recuse yourself from retention pay. And I'm going to get back to Greg Knight, and I'm going to get back to the ethics on this. You know, I deal with it all the time with the police department because I'm so frustrated how the laws are on criminals. and how they get away with crimes and how it gets reduced in the courtroom and they walk away and blah, blah, blah. So instead of trying to reinterpret the laws 105 different ways, and I believe that there needs to be ethic training. The mayor did it. He broke his own statute of 10-9999 of mayor public input, so I agree. What happened to the ethics and how it was done, when people do an ethics, it goes to every single person on an ethics complaint, not just point one target. If 3 people goes on a trip, 3 people needs to be on that thing. So that ethics complaint was totally not done 100%. The mayor and TJ Nelson should have been in it. Janet, I'm not trying to harp on you by any means, but my blood pressure's running because when it comes to election time, everybody wants to put all of these important agendas when it comes to election time. Should it would have took 18 months for you to come with this? Could it took you shorter time? Did you have to wait towards election to do this? I'm going to stand up for Greg Knights, and I'm going to stand up for all these people that did this ethics, because y'all always want to know ethics and y'all don't believe in ethics in this. The law is the law. If you want it changed, then go and try to have it changed in peer. Try to work with the ethics board to change something. We can't get mad at nobody but how the law is written. And I remember when Judge Dell did that murder case with the Bentis trial. And he said, don't get mad at the prosecutors. Don't get mad at the state attorney's office. Don't get mad at the police. If we don't like what is not written by law, then we need to go to legislation and change that. Listen to Judge Dell's speech in his courtroom about the laws and how they're written. Same thing on how the laws are written for ethics.
Anyone else for public input on this item?
I've done work in the prisons, Catherine Riffle here, sorry. I've done work in the prisons in different state and local county jails, et cetera. I've done teaching, I've been counseling, et cetera. I agree to the fact that we need some ethical training here. Everybody needs to have it on all the levels. But most of all, when you screw up, you need to be held accountable. I haven't heard that word yet tonight. What happened with accountability? And you know, when you take these tests in a college university and you got to sit there and they got you on film and everything so you don't cheat? Well, hello, let's do that with our ethics testings and whatever you want to put on the docket. But you got to use accountability. If they're going to screw up, deal with it. And don't let them get away with like you've been doing in the Attorney General's office and everything else. That's a bunch of crock. When somebody bald-faced lies and everything else, and yet they got evidence in their vehicle and y'all let them go, that doesn't look good on yous, no matter what level of seat you're sitting in. So you got to get it straight. You want our vote? And again, why wait till now? I've been working this situation for many years. I've got all kinds of certificates to prove it. And I'm good at what I do. I know what I'm saying. If you're going to take ethical training in all different sides of the government, then you got to be strong enough to hold them that fail it accountable. Thank you.
Anyone else for public input on this? Councilors, questions? Can I have a motion to set a date of second reading for Wednesday, April 13th, 2022?
Move to approve. Brecky.
Second, Star.
Motion by Brecky, second by Star. Discussion? Councilor Breck.
I do want to respond to the public input, and that's why we have public input, so that we can engage the public. And I do think it is legitimate questioning, you know, as to my motive for bringing it now. But I would say this, and one of the public testimony said, it's been on my mind for a long time, but it was a difficult thing, and I don't want to say just one little thing. You know, the whole thing with having an actual ethics hearing was difficult. And so to try to amend the ethics ordinance Soon after that, I thought we just weren't in a position to discuss it and give it fair consideration. So I did hold off for probably an extra year or a year and a half, and I thought, well, now was a good time to do it. And I would correct you, this one I've only been working on it a year. The other one was 18 months. This one's a year, and it did surprise me when I tried to work with the Board of Ethics. I was tied to their quarterly meetings, and it took 3 meetings, and I thought the language was pretty simple. I didn't think it would take as long, but we kept working on tweaking the language, and then they had some assignments for me. It was all very collaborative. It really worked well, but then it did get me down to the wire, and that's part of why, I'll be honest, that's part of why I set it for first reading tonight. If you move it forward, we will be out of the election cycle, one way or another, but I'll still be here, whether I win, lose, or draw. So I would like to be here to see it through to the end. So if you move it forward, we won't have the elections thing in play, but I did want to bring it forward to this point. So I hope that answers the questions.
Other discussion? Seeing none, let's go for the vote.
Council members Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That is approved 8-0. Next item, please.
Next item is 86, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations, facilities, $1 million, fire, $2,685,000, police, $80,000, library, $50,000, highway and streets, $6 million, and parks and recreation, $3,855,000. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 19th, 2022. Sponsors the mayor.
Director Pritchard.
Good evening, Sean Pritchard, Director of Finance. So I'm standing in front of you this evening to discuss a supplemental appropriation. Primarily deals with the sales and use tax fund, which is allocated to capital projects. There are a couple of complementary general fund requests that are made as part of this appropriations ordinance as well. We will request second reading on the 19th, so we'll have a 2-week period until we bring back second reading, at which time we will also have capital program amendments that go along with these appropriation requests. First thing I'd note is on March 28th, the audit committee met and accepted the external audit for the City of Sioux Falls. With that, the City of Sioux Falls has published its annual consolidated financial report for the city for 2021. It is available on the city's website at the finance page. And we will be here presenting on April 19th the full report and end-of-year report for the City of Sioux Falls as well. But what you see in front of you is the balance that we have in the sales and use tax fund. So typically this time of year we come forward and working with you, making recommendations and requests for use of those additional dollars that were left over at the end of last year. So as you can see from here, we had an available fund balance in the sales and use tax fund of $11.7 million. I will also note, you'll see that we still have a reserve in that fund of $4.87 million. We increased that last year from about 2.4 to 4.8. I think that was a wise decision. We're going to see some, with the changing market conditions, we're going to see some changes on our mark-to-market related to our investment holdings, and so you're probably going to see that be negative next year, and it's probably going to impact that reserve, which is exactly what we had intended as part of that time. You can also see, due from other entities, we are carrying about $10 million in receivables, slightly higher than last year, but again, that was another reason for boosting the reserve, is to make sure we continue to cash flow this fund, particularly in the early months of the year. With that, so the $11.7 million is what's available to appropriate from this fund at this time at the end of 2021. We are also looking to free up some additional ARPA funds that we had previously allocated to the Washington Pavilion Parapet project, of which $2 million would be reallocated to the sales and use tax fund, and $400,000 would go to the general fund. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail as we get through the slides here. But overall, with that $2 million reallocation, we're looking at about $13.7 million of appropriations for the sales and use tax fund specifically. Some of the themes and primary recommendations you're going to see coming out of the request brought forward here today. The first one is cost escalation. So about $7.35 million of the $13 million or so that we're requesting here for your consideration is related to cost escalation. So typically when we bring forward these requests, we talk about the additional projects that we're able to fund with the additional money. Given the nature of the market right now, where we're experiencing dramatic and dynamic cost escalation across all types of projects, the severity of cost increases, they depend on the materials. We'll discuss this in further details in a few minutes, but also Mark Cotter, Director of Public Works, will be standing up toward the end of this presentation to also highlight some of the challenges that we're seeing in the marketplace right now. Some of the other themes, I won't go into depth on these because we have future slides on these. Sidewalks and ADA compliance is a significant amount of what we'll be discussing here in terms of requests. The repurposing of some of the ARPA funds with modifying some of those sources and uses. I'll walk through exactly what we're recommending there. This afternoon, you got an opportunity to hear the vision for Jacobson Plaza as it's gone further into design at this time, and we'll discuss some additional funds allocated to that, which would be matched by the donor, the Jacobson family. And then there's some miscellaneous other items that are being brought forward from a time basis that we'll discuss as well. First of all, I'm going to talk about general fund supplements. I know the next agenda item we'll be discussing is supplement related to the Discovery District for $3.5 million. And so I'm not going to speak to that specifically, but I do want to notate that as a general fund supplement. There's $1.4 million for highways and streets. This is related to sidewalks and ADA. I will discuss this in further detail as well when we talk about sidewalks. This would be offset with $700,000 in additional revenue. We actually, over time, should recoup all of the $1.4 million that's requested here. Again, I'll walk through that here in a few moments also. And then there's a $400,000 general fund request related to health for a new initiative called Eat Well Sioux Falls Grant Program. And this is $400,000 of the reallocated ARPA funding that would be utilized for this. This is a presentation that will be coming before you on April 19th as well at the informational. So Dr. Shima, our Director of Health Department, will be speaking about kind of the goals and objectives that they're bringing forward in terms of this initiative. It is proposed to be funded with ARPA. It meets the terms and conditions and fits well with some of the things and objectives that ARPA was attempting to achieve. It's been in the news, and certainly it's been, I think, on people's minds, some of the concerns we've had with certain areas of our community that are going to be underserved with availability to healthy food within close proximity to their home, particularly if they're limited on transportation. With the closure of a couple of grocery stores, this has impacted and increased the number of areas here that we would classify as low income and low food access. So that is why we're bringing forward the Eat Well Sioux Falls Grant Program, which would provide one-time incentivized monetary awards to hopefully incentivize private enterprise as well as community organizations to increase the access to healthy foods within these targeted areas. And so be happy to answer any questions on that, as well as Dr. Chima, but just wanted to make you aware that he's going to discuss it in much more detail here in the next 2 weeks. The reason why I'm talking about these general fund provisions is you will recall when we brought forward the Employer of Choice program and we brought forward the DSU supplement, one of the questions that we were posed is how will that impact the general fund? This was the same chart that we showed you at that time. These additional general fund requests were already contemplated in our mind when we brought these forward, so we had already estimated that these were going to be moved forward as well and were contemplated as part of the analysis that we did, which essentially came to the conclusion that at the end of 2022, based on additional revenues we anticipated this year, as well as some changes to expenses, our overall reserve ratio is contemplated to be very much in line with what we had originally budgeted to be. So when we budgeted, we expected 31.6%, and we're currently forecasting 31.9%. Now, certainly that can change between now and the end of the year. We have 8 more months before the end of the year, but based on the indications we have at this time, this is where we would forecast that end of year balance to remain, which is still in a very strong and healthy condition overall. Talking about cost escalation, which I referred to previously, $7.35 million. Firstly, we're looking to allocate $4.5 million to major street reconstruction, so this is the most significant investment that we're requesting here, and it's primarily just to deal with some of the things that we're seeing in the marketplace, where they're, depending on the materials, anywhere from no increase to 70% increase, but as they kind of looked over their line items and been analyzing what the impacts of the current inflationary environment has been, they're looking at about a 15 to 25% cost escalation. So the funding is meant to really try to keep as many projects on track with what we had originally anticipated as it is actually to fund additional projects. Jacobson Plaza, when you look at where their impacts were in terms of cost escalation, it's about $2.5 million over the original cost program. Now, as we discussed here at the informational today, there is some increase in terms of the scope of that project as well. But part of what we're seeing is escalation in cost, and that's not just cost escalation in terms of materials, but it's also cost escalation in terms of we've gotten to a point with that design now that is, we know exactly how it has to be built relative to some of the environmental remediation, soil conditions, et cetera, for that particular site, and there is some cost escalation related to that. And then finally, not probably surprising, if you follow the vehicle market, the increases in prices that we're seeing as consumers there, we as a city also purchase a great deal of equipment, and we are seeing some cost escalation there. So there's some requests here to make sure that we're staying on target with some acquisitions that we are intending to make. So that would be an $80,000 increase for police. That's related to 2 animal control pickups. There is a $185,000 increase requested for fire rescue. This is related to 2 wildland firefighter packages related to equipment. And then for parks, it's $85,000, and this is related to a $55,000 increase expected for 2 tractors and a $30,000 increase as a result of acquiring a contour mower. On the sidewalks and ADA piece, there's really 2 requests here, one on the general fund and one that's related to the capital or sales tax fund. So addressing the first one is a request for $1 million, and this is related to ADA improvements at intersections. So our intent is to advance the city's priority of making sure that we're getting many of those area of the intersections replaced, those curb ramps replaced for those intersections. That is the responsibility of the city. That is why it's being paid for or requested out of the capital fund. We maintain or we inspect over 1,240 miles of sidewalk within the city of Sioux Falls, and as expected, we have sometimes harsh winters, conditions that create heaving and so forth, and they create ADA issues related to sidewalks, which are the responsibility of the homeowner, but the city is involved in terms of the inspection and identifying sidewalks that need to be replaced. We are requesting $1.4 million to accommodate sidewalks that have to be fixed by the city. So as the process goes, the city notifies the property owner that they have an issue with a certain number of pieces of their sidewalk which are marked. They have a certain time period in which they would complete it. If they do not complete it, then the city comes out and repairs them and bills them for the expense of doing that. So we contract it out. We have several large contracts that we let out, and then we will go out and fix those particular sidewalks. What happens, though, is because we're the ones paying for that contract, we have to have appropriation authority to cover it. So that is what the $1.4 million is being requested to cover. We do anticipate that most of this will be paid back to the city through a number of ways. The first is we issue an invoice, they pay us the invoice, and so we take that back in as revenue. The second option is the option that you heard today at this afternoon's informational meeting, where the city is introducing a grant program for up to $5,000 per low-income homeowner that might be impacted significantly by these sidewalks. And there is a propensity for a homeowner, particularly on fixed income or so forth, that they having a cost of $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000 to repair sidewalks is a significant financial burden for them. And so that is why for the last several months we've been working to bring forward this new emergency repair grant program that you see there in third. Lastly, the third way that we're repaid, if they don't pay the invoice and they don't qualify the grant program, the alternative we have is to do an assessment. We've talked about how to do this in the most prudent way. And so we would probably assess over 5 years. We do, by ordinance, are required to charge an interest rate, but are waiving any sort of engineering fee related to that, and that's related to specifically to sidewalks as well. So while we will intend to collect all $1.4 million in new revenues, we only are going to project $700,000 for this year, just based on being conservative in terms of when the timing of those payments would come in. 100,000 of this request is actually related to adding an additional FTE as well in order to as a resource toward our sidewalk program. I won't go into detail on the new emergency repair grant program because that was discussed at today's informational, but again, this is meant to go hand in hand, knowing what the burdens will be with some of these sidewalk repairs. The last thing I will note is that on April 19th, Public Works will be bringing forward an updated ordinance related to sidewalks and nuisance ordinances to make it in conformance with the state, which updated its laws back in 2020. In terms of ARPA funds being reallocated, so last year, I think around July or in that time frame, this council, working with the administration, allocated all of our anticipated ARPA funding for the 2 years that we were to receive the ARPA funding. At that time, we allocated $2.5 million of general sales tax funds to the public safety training project. We also allocated $2.5 million of ARPA funds to that project for a total of $5 million. One of the challenges we're seeing is when you're bringing in some of that federal money into that project, it's going to create some significant issues in terms of bidding. Particularly, that funding was meant to help cover some of the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And so because of the challenges with that, we are looking to take it out of the public safety training facility project and replace that with $2.5 million of our available sales tax surplus. So it doesn't increase the entire size of that project at all. It's just changing a source and use. Now, where would we propose utilizing the $2.5 million that's being freed up from that? What our proposal that we're bringing forward is to bring that money into the River Greenway project. So when we brought forward the original appropriation for the River Greenway project, we were anticipating at that time that we would receive a $2.5 million EDA grant. We had been courted by the EDA to apply for the grant program. It was basically built for a project like the River Greenway. It was additional funding that the EDA had received from ARPA that they were allocating over several states. And it had to relate to tourism and economic development and be a regional initiative, all of which our project entailed. Unfortunately, we were not successful in achieving that. We spent about 4 months applying for those funds. They gave a project to every state, but we were not the one that received it for the state of South Dakota, and we were recently alerted to that. Anticipating that that was going to happen, the request is that we would take the $2.5 million from the public safety training facility from ARPA funding and put it in the River Greenway project. So we are not increasing the size of the River Greenway as originally proposed. We're simply now backfilling in the EDA grant funds. The reason why the ARPA money is complementary to that project is we had already allocated $5 million to the Lowhead Dam, which is already a part of that River Greenway project. So from an ease and administration perspective, it's simply easier for a construction project that we consolidate the ARPA funds into one project to avoid some of the, I would say, some of the requirements and so forth that come along with bidding and all the things that come along with federal requirements. On the second side, the Washington Pavilion Parapet project, we had allocated $4.6 million of ARPA funding for that replacement project earlier this year. You heard a presentation from the architects where the expectation of that project cost was reduced from a cost of potentially $6 million, where now we think it's going to be more in that potential $4.5 million range. So they were able to secure some pretty significant cost reductions. Similarly, at the time that we were projecting the entertainment tax budget for 2021 and 2022, we were experiencing significant reductions in revenues there, but that bounced back very quickly last year. We ended up with an additional $1 million within the entertainment tax fund above what we expected in the budget. And we're anticipating that that will probably follow the same pattern coming into this year as well. So with some additional revenues and a lower cost project, it gives us an opportunity to essentially take some of the ARPA funds that we had allocated there and move those to other portions. So as I noted earlier, $400,000 of that would revert to the general fund where it would be used to help fund the Eat Well Sioux Falls grant program, and then $2 million would be reallocated to the sales tax fund. We would place that fund and dedicate it to the River Greenway project, again consolidating the funds from the ARPA into one project for administrative ease. That would free up $2 million in sales tax funds, which we are using to reallocate over to the Jacobson Plaza project. So I won't go into great depth. That was discussed in great detail here this afternoon, but overall, we've seen cost escalation, but also making sure that we have a project that really fits the expectation for the community, that we build it right the first time, that it's sized for a community that is growing, and also create an experience that will become a regional draw, both from a visitor and economic development perspective. And while $3.5 million of additional funding is requested from the city, $2 million of that is hedged by the reallocations that we're doing through the ARPA. So it ends up being a net of about $1.5 million of new funding from the city, plus the $2 million we've reallocated. And that is also going to be matched from $3.5 million in additional dollars from the Jacobson family. Just talking again about this project, we are pleased to really work with a donor where we have a shared vision for what we see for the future of this facility. And that's truly what makes a public and private partnership successful. As I said before, our goal is to build it right. We can only build it once. You cannot increase the size of it once it's been built because of all the systems that are entailed with that. We also have a look to the financial viability of this project in the future. We are incentivized to try to minimize the potential financial impact of the operations. So we have to be thinking strategically in the long term as to what we build and how that might vary with operations. And are there opportunities where we could work with a third party, much as we do with many of our entertainment facilities and some of our parks and rec facilities, to have them manage and help operate, program, and activate some of the spaces. And they do an excellent job of that, and also hopefully mitigate the expense to the city, potentially hopefully generate new revenue for the city, but at the best, making sure that we're reducing the cost to the city overall for those operations. Lastly, the last thing I would say about this is we keep our eye on the notion that we want to create an experience for people. That is what will get them to return to this site time and time again. It is more than just a recreational facility where you do ice skating. It is meant to be a place where people gather, have a sense of community, and want to repeatedly go there. And the more that it creates that experience for people, the more likely that they're going to come back time and time again, but also it's going to attract visitors from a larger portion of our region. Lastly, a couple of things that are also being requested: $1 million for strategic land acquisition. So not specifically identified. We know with the growth of the city, we're going to have land growth needs, and we need to be getting ahead of that in terms of where we're planning for fire stations, libraries, and other types of centralized facilities. This is meant to help provide a deposit for that, so that if there is an opportunity to make some of those acquisitions ahead of the growth at a time where it might be less expensive for the city to be able to identify those pieces of property. That is what the intent of that funding is for. We've included $50,000 for libraries specific to childhood literacy. $36,000 of this would go toward the acquisition of 720 Wonder Books. These are audio-enabled picture books that are built in audio player that help readers build vocabulary, improve reading speed and fluency. This would double the size of the collection that the city currently has with its library system, which is 95%. Right now, we have about 95% of those titles in use. So it would definitely put an infusion into an area that's getting a lot of demand. We would also make investments into other areas such as children and teen audiobooks, bilingual books and audio materials, as well as teen novels. The next one you see on the list there is for $500,000. It's related to the Highways and Streets State System compliant radios. So this is to replace all the radios used by our Highways and Streets Department. They will not be compliant with the state's radio network in the next 18 months. And so the request is to fund the replacement of those radios. The next item is zoo sanitary sewer. So we became aware of the fact that we have a challenge related to a sanitary sewer line that runs underneath the zoo. We are responsible for the maintenance and capital improvements at the zoo related to some of these items. They did look into being able to find a way to fix it or to line it, and that was not feasible. So the request is for $120,000 of repairs for this unexpected item, and I believe they would look to coordinate this project in the fall with some other projects that they're doing at the zoo. And then finally, $150,000 is requested for reconstruction of the bike trail. This would be just north of Madison, running up to Elmwood Golf Course. We are already in the process, or have already expected to reconstruct above Russell all the way up to the Mabel Avenue. And so this would be done in conjunction with that project. There's some efficiencies to doing them simultaneously or at least sequenced with each other. So overall, this is the totality of the requests that are made that we referred to this evening and have been discussing here over the last couple of weeks. I will also note there's one other item here. It's for $115,000, and this is for a medication dispensing system. So this is not being paid for from surplus dollars, but this is a grant fund that we received. And then lastly, when the capital resolutions come forward next week, there are a couple of capital program amendments that we will also have to address. These do not require appropriation, so they're just going to be capital resolution changes. So I'll talk to those, in more detail when we get to April 19th. So before you do see the schedule for first and second reading, we'll have the capital program resolution on April 19th, and then also on April 19th would come forward a restated donor agreement with related to the Jacobson Plaza naming and gifting agreement. With that, I'm going to have Director Cotter come up here and talk a little bit to you about cost escalation and what we're seeing there. We do have the Directors of Libraries, Parks and Recreation, Health, Public Works, and Planning and Development Services here to help answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Council Chair and Council members. Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. I just want to give you some perspective on what we're seeing with bidding. We're still, we're kind of maybe 2/3 into our bidding. We're starting to see, our projects get started, but just with the tight labor market, increasing fuel, supply chain issues, give you some perspective. We're tracking about 18 key bid items that we see threaded throughout most of our construction projects. And when we compare those 18 from recent bids to 2021, and then we do an average weighted cost of those bid items, we're seeing year to date about a 22.6% increase. And so, and that seems like that's only getting worse, especially with utility pipes. And so, as you guys know, we bid our projects by priority. We're fortunate that we already have Minnesota bid, North Minnesota bid, and under construction. 41st Street and I-29, the new diverging diamond. Cliff Avenue just bid last week from 49th to 56th, and then 41st Street from Sycamore Avenue. That'll be a major east side project. Tomorrow we'll actually bid Arrowhead Parkway and the realignment of that intersection at 6 Mile Road. That'll change the transportation system for the east side of Sioux Falls. And then in the coming weeks, we have North Sycamore Avenue between Benson Road and 60th Street North. That'll be bid, and North Marion Road, the next segment to support the Foundation Park build out. We anticipate further escalation with these projects. And so just today, I wanted to just give you that perspective. We appreciate having space on your agenda and you considering some of the dollars for addressing cost escalation. Thank you.
Thank you. This time we'll take public input on this item. Seeing none, councilors, questions? Councilor Selberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I sure appreciate the thorough and detailed explanation on all this. It's just sometimes mind-boggling, all the numbers you go through. Director Pritchett, I thought we were going to have to give you oxygen. You moved through that pretty well. So I appreciate like when you're proactive on things like ARPA funds and like you talk about where I think you're avoiding headaches down the road. I don't know that I really understood. I kind of get it, but when we talk about costs and cost overruns, is it all come down, whether it's like the projects Director Cotter's talking about or the many you covered, and all the overruns come down to the same thing we talked about with Jacobson Plaza, where we really don't know what a lot of things are going to cost till, this kept hitting me from last week, till it gets on the truck. In all these different projects, it's the same thing. You just don't really have an idea. I mean, not even I would imagine you have a ballpark, but until the last minute when it gets loaded up, that's when you know for sure.
Well, I think what you're seeing, and certainly Director Cotter could probably speak more eloquently to this, but what you're seeing is, especially on the engineering side, and from people bidding, is they're uncertain of what future prices look like. And so when you do that, you start padding yourself even further, right? So we feel comfortable with where we're at with Jacobson Plaza, and we have the opportunity, to make sure that we're getting as many of those program elements as we expect within the revised budget there. We just had Hayward Park that opened bids, and we were pleasantly surprised that we came in within our anticipated budget for that. But there certainly is a unique market out there. If you talk to contractors, you're working real estate, and I'm sure you talk to various home builders and so forth, the things that we're experiencing are extremely long lead times when you can get the product, and when you have the product, some of the things that you can expect is either sometimes they're not even going to price you until you're on the truck, which you talked a little bit about when we met over the course of the last week. But other things that you're seeing is they used to give you 30 days notice and then they were going to increase prices. Well, they're going to stop doing, or they are stopping to do that because the problem is everybody was buying in those 30 days because they were trying to get ahead of that next price increase. So now it's just becoming instantaneous price increases and notifications that people are experiencing. And it's not always across the board. I've talked to different contractors too where they've seen product come down a little bit from where they were in December. But in totality, as Director Cotter alluded to, we are still seeing fairly significant increases, especially with product related to utility work.
Yeah, just gets a little scary, like you say, when it could be hundreds of thousands at the last minute and that type of thing. So I just always kind of wondered what was the heads up and how much cushion are you ready for? But it sounds like you're ready. So anyway, thanks again for the explanation.
Counselor Starr.
Yes, thank you, Director, too. Here's my question, because I'm not a logical guy, but I try to be sometimes. We've identified let me start this way. One of the places where we haven't been able to assist low-income disabled folks is with the sidewalk program. So I'm excited that this is something we just, over the years, we've all gotten the emails that, hey, I need help with the sidewalk to stay in my house or for whatever reason. So this is an awesome program that I think we're all excited about because now we have an answer for those constituents that are looking for it. We go out annually as a city and identify the sidewalks that need repaired. We paint them and point them out. So rather than starting a grant program and hiring another FTE, wouldn't it make more sense to go out and replace the sidewalks that we've already identified and just cut to the chase and do the work that way? And it takes several rounds of bureaucracy out of the process, and we fix the sidewalks and we move on.
Do you want to speak to this one, Director?
Oh, don't cop out on me now.
Thank you for the question. I'll attempt to, these historically have always been property owner responsibilities, and ultimately those dollars have to come from somewhere. And with the miles that we have and the growing system, I don't see that being sustainable. I think one of the things that we've done is that we give property owners an adequate runway to fix it. If they can't, then what we'll try to do is bid a large enough project to really capture the economy of scale. And then one of the strategies we did this year, and we collectively just got together and said, let's not put the normal engineering, that sort of management fee on top. And so we are absorbing that. But this will only be a larger and larger program as we go forward. Accessibility is paramount in this community, and I just, without looking at what the long-term effect of that would be, I don't see how that's a sustainable or affordable approach for the city.
Well, I guess my point is that we've already identified them, but now we're adding inspections on the front end and the back end, and we're not adding the engineering, which I really appreciate because again, it's the folks that are getting this. My concern is that somebody's going to be left out or will be missed getting the information where if we just went and fixed what we know and people qualify, it's a way there. I get it. We're government. We can't totally get out of the bureaucracy, that part of it. So thank you. I respect the answer.
You're welcome.
Other counselors' questions?
I just had one more if I could, Mr. Chair. Actually, Dr. Chima's been sitting here the whole evening, so I can't not throw out a health department question, but I'm curious about the grant that you received. One of the things that I appreciate about the health department more than any of the other city departments, it seems like when you guys need something, you find the grant money to get it done and you scrape I call it living off the land and finding the resources. So is this replacing a piece of equipment or is this something new or a new process that you're adding to the department?
Charles Chima, Public Health Director. Councilor Starr, I assume you're referring to the $115,000 equipment. So, no, this is a new equipment, it's not a replacement. And what this enables us to do is to really have accountability, because we are a clinic that serves a lot of vulnerable populations. We always have to tap into resources to assist as much people as we can. So we have donated medication from, pharmaceutical companies. We have what is called a patient assistance program, where essentially we work with individual patients who cannot afford their medications, and we have social workers, case managers reach out to private companies that manufacture these drugs and try to get donated pills. But at times we have difficulty maintaining, because medications are very regulated item. So you have to see that you have an accountability process to see what pill came for who and who was it dispensed to. And when you just have these items hanging on drug cupboards, it's not always easy to have accountability as to who picked what medication and who did they give it to. So what this is an electronic system that inventories any medication that you hand out, and it's able to have a timestamp with regards to who accessed the system and who removed what pill and who gave it to what patient. So that's what that allows us to do. And as you pointed out, this is entirely paid by grant funding, so it's not stepping into the general funds or anything.
Would an old guy like me be right saying that it's the Pyxis system, basically, where they're signing in and out of the machine?
Yes, it's a Pyxis system.
I'm not sure that's the right
Yeah.
company name, but
Yeah,
it's
it
enough
is.
for old people like me to know. Been around on that. So thank you very much, and I appreciate that. And I don't want to leave anybody else out, but I'm not going to drag Jody up either for her $50,000 for taking care of kids in our community. So thank you. I'm done.
Other questions? I'd entertain a motion to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 19th, 2022.
So move, Jensen.
Second, Kylie. Point of order, though, did we request public input on this item?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that before we went any further. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the item? Roll call vote, please.
Council members Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Brecky.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 87 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations to support the construction and operation of the University of South Dakota Discovery District Research Park located in the City of Sioux Falls. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 19th, 2022. Sponsors, Councilmembers Sale and Erickson.
Councilmember Erickson.
Say that again. That was great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to present briefly, and then I'm going to turn it over to the experts. They can clearly present better. So this appropriation, if you followed through the legislature, there was a substantial appropriation made by the state of South Dakota into the USD Discovery District. The USD Discovery District is one that we have been talking about as a council. When previous administrations removed the funding, we continuously, year after year, put that funding back in. So for those of you that don't know what the University Center is, it's under the direction from the South Dakota Board of Regents back in 2001. It's managed by the University of South Dakota. There are public-private partnerships within this. Forward Sioux Falls, City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota Board of Regents, and GoEd. It also includes Community College for Sioux Falls, USD Discovery District, Graduate Education and Applied Research Center, which is oftentimes known as the GEAR Center. This appropriation, what it will do for this $4 million appropriation, what it will do is right now there's very little adaptive space to show interested prospects. So referring to other competitive lab spaces, what we are being told is that we need adaptive space to fit prospect needs, proper ventilation system, FDA compliant clean rooms for production of commercial therapeutics, medical devices, proper lab space including sensitive equipment, leveling systems, and chemical storage space. So that's just a real high level on my end. We all know what the USD Discovery District does and what this potential building could do for not just Sioux Falls, but for the state of South Dakota. We want our brightest and best to stay here in South Dakota. The average income of these jobs are high-paying jobs, from starting around that $68,000-ish, give or take. And these are the jobs we want folks to have and have those educational opportunities. Councilor Sale, I know that you are the prime on this and you have worked your tail off over the years for this as well as this council making it a priority. I'll remind you all, last July, we did pass a statement of this being one of our priorities and wanted to see the funding of this. You will later see an agreement come forward with the USD Discovery District, much like we did with the cybersecurity building where we appropriated the funds and later the agreement came. This will be the same thing. But without further ado, I'd like to, President Sheila, if you can come up, and then Ryan, if you'd like to join too. I'd give you the floor to maybe explain it far better than I did, as you are the experts and live and breathe this daily, and we couldn't do it without your leadership as well. I also would be remiss if I did not mention Majority Leader Kent Peterson was the prime sponsor in the legislature, making sure that these funds were appropriated, as well as many other people that were involved in this. I'd hate to list them all because I'll probably forget one. So, President, go ahead.
Thank you, Councilmember Erickson. She actually did an eloquent job of highlighting the project and everything it's meant to do. But first of all, Sheila Gestring, President for the University of South Dakota. I'm also here representing the University of South Dakota Discovery District. As Councilmember Erickson mentioned, we have Ryan Oinez here for those more detailed questions. He is the Chief Operating Officer for the Discovery District. And if there's follow-up questions, I would just offer up early on, we're available to you for a phone call, an email, a tour, maybe a review of the master plan, any questions between now and the second reading, because I know that this is brief and it's very high level. But again, asking for $3.5 million, $4 million total, 3.5 added to the 5 already in place, to help support a $25 million biomedical innovation facility. And the types of companies we're looking to attract there are companies in regenerative medicine or biomarket medical devices. And a lot of that research is actually occurring in our GEAR facility, the Graduate Education and Research Facility. We have a biomedical engineering program. And the idea there is to take those students, then they perhaps create an item, develop a new technology. They start a small business that needs to be incubated, but that's 1 or 2 people, and they do that in the GEAR Center. And then that business evolves and it grows to a stage where they can move into a discovery district because they've outgrown their space. They're into early stage and they need to continue to develop their product. We also believe we're going to be able to attract these companies from other states. We've had several that have had expressed interest, and they don't have the time for us to wait to construct a facility. They need those spaces, those very flexible spaces, already pre-built so that we can just go in and build to their spec in order to get this done. They don't have 2 years to wait. They're in, early stage development, and they're under the gun with funding. I think the most exciting part about this project, though, is the kinds of jobs that it creates. It's great for our students. It will help us retain the best and brightest scientific minds of the students from the state of South Dakota. That means they can live and they can work here in South Dakota instead of having to go to a place up towards Minneapolis and do very similar work. The idea here is very exciting for the university in that regard. We love keeping our best and brightest, and he's not listening right now. He'll be back in May, but Frank Liebfarth would have been a great one to keep from Yankton, South Dakota. He's now developed some pretty significant biotech on his own. His is actually related to water filtration and not biomedicine, but it's those sorts of students that we really want to keep here in South Dakota and provide those sorts of jobs for, so that they can live and enjoy life in a wonderful city and a wonderful state. So with that, I'll stand by for any questions, and if they're very detailed, I'll probably lean on Ryan. So thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll take public input. Seeing none, counselors, questions?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve for second reading for Wednesday, April 13th. I know it's different than our agenda, but I did request that to be on Wednesday, April 13th.
Second, Kylie.
Moved by Erickson, second by Kylie, to set a date of second reading for Wednesday, April 13th, 2022. Further discussion? Counselor Selberg?
I would just say it's almost kind of a deja vu, like we just talked about this a little bit with the DSU stuff and that too, where we're trying to keep our best and brightest, as you had said, and we're trying to, give them a good wage and reasons to stay around here and giving them exciting opportunities. Yeah, it's good stuff, and I know that everybody on this council has been wholeheartedly behind the Discovery District in the years that I've been here, and there's no reason why we wouldn't continue to be. So, nice job laying all this out, and looking forward to learning more about it in the next couple of weeks, but thank you for the presentation.
Other discussion? Seeing none, can we have a vote, please?
Councilmembers Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 88 is a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Sanford Sports Complex South Edition 15981, 2022. Sponsors the mayor.
This is an application by Tim Van Vaught with JSA Engineers. The owner is Sanford Health. It's located south of West Benson Road and west of North Westport Avenue. It's about 73.2 acres in size. This is a preliminary plan for another phase of the Sanford Sports Complex. This area will hold the DSU Cyber facility and also some other medical offices for Sanford.
Thank you. Anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, councilors, questions?
Move to approve, Nitzert.
Second, Jensen.
Approved by Nitzert, second by Jensen. Any more discussion? Seeing none, can we have a vote, please?
Councilmembers Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg, Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
The motion is passed 7-0. Next item, please.
Item 89 is a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Majestic Village Addition 15906, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
The applicant here is Todd Price with Bros Engineering. The owner is Clint Ackerman. This is the preliminary subdivision plan that goes along with the rezoning that we heard earlier in the night. It's about 126 acres, and the purpose is to construct a residential, office, and commercial development.
Anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? Councilors, questions?
Move approval, Jensen.
Second, Erickson.
Motion by Jensen, second by Erickson for approval. Discussion? Seeing none, can we have a vote, please?
Councilmember Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg, Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That motion is passed 7-0. Next item, please.
Item 90 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, annexation 16063, 2022, Perry Nature Area. Sponsor is the mayor.
The applicant's here at Minnehaha County in the city of Sioux Falls. It's located north of Arrowhead Parkway and just west of the Mary Jo Arboretum along the Big Sioux River. It's about just under 30 acres in size. This annexation will include the right-of-way and will not include any of the privately owned land that's within this area. And then we also did reach out to the owner of that existing house that's just north of the nature area and have spoken to him directly about this annexation. So,
Anyone here to speak on this item? Any from the public? Councilors, questions?
Move to approve.
Second, Jensen.
Got a motion for approval and second. Councilor Nitzert.
Just out of curiosity, is this for road realignment or providing service or?
I think they've just, the city and the county have been working quite a while to annex this area in and have been coordinating with that existing property owner that you can kind of see in that triangular piece. So I think it's just bringing that whole area in and possibly then adding it to the Mary Jo Arboretum, some additional land.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Let's move to a vote, please.
Councilmembers Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg, Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That motion has passed 7-0. Next item, please.
Item 91 is a resolution including the certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, annexation 15971, 2022, Nearison Northwest 1/4, Northeast 1/4. Sponsor is the mayor.
The applicant here is the Harrisburg School District. It's located the southwest of East 85th Street and South Cliff Avenue. This is just a northern portion of the Harrisburg Freshman Academy. It's about 1.2 acres in size. They're looking to just annex in this strip to provide some additional access to the subdivision to the west.
Thank you. Anyone here from the public who wish to speak on this item? Counselors, do you have questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second, Brecky.
Motion by Kylie, second by Brecky. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's move to the vote, please.
Councilmembers Nitzert,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That motion is approved 7-0. Next item, please.
Item 92 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, annexation 16043, 2022, Tract 5, Ackerson's Addition. Sponsor is the mayor.
The applicant here is Steve Van Buskirk with Van Buskirk Companies. It's located at the southeast corner of 85th Street and South Minnesota Avenue. It's about 1.3 acres. This annexation is also similar to the one we just did to the east. It's some land for some additional access to this development.
Thank you. Anybody here from the public who wish to speak on this item? Counselors, are there questions?
Move approval, Nitzert.
Second, Jensen.
Motion to approve by Nitzert, second by Jensen. Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have a vote, please?
Councilmembers Nitzert,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson, Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That has approved 7-0. Next item, please.
Item 93 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, annexation 15958, 2022, Baker Farms, Northwest 1/4, Northwest 1/4. Sponsors the mayor.
The applicant here is Empire Homes. This is located just west of George McGovern Middle School on West Maple Street. It's about just under 80 acres in size. This annexed area will be utilized for a future residential subdivision.
You want to hear from the public who wish to address this item? Counselors, do you have questions? I would entertain a motion.
Move approval, Nitzert.
Second, Jensen.
Motion by Nitzert, second by Jensen for approval. Discussion. Counselor Nitzert.
This is, I know the area well. It's very exciting to see this area finally starting to develop. And so just really excited to see development starting to come. More housing too.
Other comments, questions? Seeing none, move to a vote, please.
Councilmembers Nitzert,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That is approved 7-0. Next item, please.
Item 94 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, annexation 16068, 2022, Old Ridge, North 1/2, Northeast 1/4. Sponsors the mayor.
The applicant here is Lloyd Companies. This is located at the southwest corner of West 41st Street and South Ellis Road. It's about 31.4 acres in size. This annexed area will be used for a future residential and commercial subdivision.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wish to discuss this item? Counselors, do you have questions?
Move approval, Nitzert.
Second, Jensen.
Motion by Nitzert, second by Jensen for approval. Discussion. Seeing none, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmembers Nitzert,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That motion is approved 7-0. Next item, please.
Item 95 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a second amendment to agreement between Friends of Levitt Shell Sioux Falls Incorporated and Mortimer and Mimi Levitt Foundation and the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota regarding Levitt Shell at Falls Park West. Sponsors the mayor.
Good evening, Jackie Nelson, Parks and Recreation, here to bring forth an amendment to the Levitt Agreement. So as just mentioned, the amendment or the agreement is a partnership between the City of Sioux Falls, the Friends of Levitt, and then the Levitt Foundation. So for this proposed amendment, the reason for the amendment is to really transfer non-Levitt rentals to the Friends of Levitt. We would like to do this to help streamline the process and make it more of a one-stop shop for patrons that would like to rent the facilities. By doing so, all of the rentals would now be managed through the Levitt directly and the event applicant, and it also would simplify the fee schedule. So this is some small print on this slide, but wanted to put it all on one slide so you could read left to right just to see what the current agreement is today and what the changes would represent. So the first bullet talks about how currently non-Levitt rentals or reservations are managed through the citywide special event process through Parks and Recreation. The amended agreement would have non-Levitt sponsored reservations managed through the Friends of Levitt, and that would be effective May 1st if approved tonight. Second bullet, in regard to the current agreement, Levitt reservations are first come, first serve. However, the Friends of Levitt do have first priority, with the city having second priority. Currently, the Levitt has 80 days that they get to pick for first priority. With the amended agreement, that 80 days would change to 90. However, priority would still remain the same, with Levitt being first priority, city being second priority, and then those third-party rentals being third priority. In regard to fees, the current fees as approved in fee ordinance today are reflected there on the slide, and this is by anticipated attendance, so it's anywhere from $600 a day up to $3,500 per day. With the amended agreement, those fees would remain the same as of now and would be approved through the Parks and Recreation Board. So any changes in regard to reservation fees that the Friends of Levitt would want to propose, those would need to be approved by the Parks and Recreation Board. And then additional fees that we are currently not allowed to charge for today because they're not in fee ordinance would be reflected through the Friends of Levitt and be charged directly through the Friends of Levitt with the amended agreement. So that would be anything related to sound, lighting, and or the video board. Just to kind of run over the history again of the reservations at the Levitt. In 19, there were no third-party reservations because it was opening season. In 2020, due to COVID, again, no third-party reservations. Last year, coming out of COVID, we did have 10 reservations for revenue to the city at $6,900. And then for 2022, we have about 7 potential reservations at a revenue reflected at $5,825 that we're currently talking to that would be turned over to the Friends of Levitt for them to manage for the rest of the year. And with that, I'd now like to invite Nancy Halverson up with the Friends of Levitt just to talk a little bit about what this means to the Friends of Levitt and how the partnership has worked so far.
Good evening, counselors. Nancy Halverson, Executive Director of Levitt at the Falls, and we are really looking forward to this. What it does is allows a simpler way for us to communicate and make the venue more accessible to more organizations in our community. Just make it simpler, streamline it. It also puts us closer in alignment to what the other Levitts are across the national network. So we feel like there's a lot of best practice for us to learn from and really make this a wonderful, just accessible venue for everyone. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you. This time we'll take public input on this subject.
Catherine Ripple here. I wasn't going to speak on this, but something led me to step up. Why doesn't the city take a weekend and use this activity to bring in money to help house some of the people in need? That's all I got to say for that.
Any other public input on this subject? Counselors, do you have questions? Counselor Starr.
Yes, and I don't know, Ms. Nelson, if this is for you or maybe Nancy, how do we measure the success? What metrics are we going to use to say this was a successful agreement when we get to the end of the contract period? I mean, are we looking for more rentals, just to ease for the Levitt? I'm throwing out the answers to my own question, but.
And I don't know if we're looking for more rentals, we're looking to bring the community together. So ultimately, the shell was built, as a music venue, as performance venue for the Levitt to bring in their concert series of the 50 concerts. So that's first and foremost what we want to see is them having their 50 performances and the lawn full of people. Anything in addition to that, I think is success, whether it be Parks and Rec programming or any type of other city programming. If we can see the lawn full every night, I think that's success.
Nope, and I agree. We're big fans. How much time is remaining in the contract that we're amending?
This is about a 50-year contract.
50?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of years.
And then my other question was for Nancy is, how much do you know about managing an ice ribbon? Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Counselor Kiley?
How early can the third-party reservations be made or taken?
So right now, being through Parks and Rec, it'd be 90 days. With Friends of Levitt, Nancy will keep it similar.
Not prior to 90 days?
Right, so right now, how it works is Nancy offers up to the Parks and Rec Department her dates. So her 80 days, going forward, it would be 90, by October 1st of every year. So between October 1st and October 31st, the Parks Department can look at those dates, make sure there's no conflicts with construction, and then give approval to those dates. Then as a Park and Rec or a city, we would then have until December 15th to provide back to Nancy any additional dates we would like to use the venue for our own city programming. So then after that December 15th timeframe, once approved through Nancy, third parties could ultimately start coming in and reserving. Typically, it's been around January 1st is when we open up for the calendar year, and then it's 90 days.
Again, my next question is, are those third-party reservations firm? Because I'm thinking, let's say that there's a rain out at an event for Friends of Levitt, or we get a great opportunity that wasn't on the schedule previously for Friends of Levitt or the city, who have priority. Is the reservation firm regardless whether it's a party of, let's say, 300 or, you know, something that could bring in 10,000 people?
Yeah, so typically they are non-refundable. However, we will work with people if, you know, if it's weather, we really can't control weather. Hopefully, if there's another event planned for the space, we would know that and we'll have that published on the website. So as people are planning or looking at future dates for their events, they'd be able to work around what's currently on the calendar for the 90 days through the Levitt and then the additional city days. But we definitely work with different third-party events to make sure we can accommodate the space and their needs. And if it doesn't work at the Levitt, then we would try to accommodate at a different Park and Rec facility.
I guess my question, though, let me rephrase it. Once they are on the schedule, can they be bumped off?
No.
They can't.
A third party, no.
So there would be no rescheduling, even if a big event was postponed for whatever reason?
No, we would not kick, we might
Okay.
have a conversation with them to see if they would be okay with moving, but if they're not, then we would not move them.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Counselors, other questions? I'd look for a motion to approve.
Move to approve. Kylie?
Second, Brecky.
Motion by Kiley, second by Brecky. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, can we have a vote, please?
Councilmembers Nitzert,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That approves 7-0. Next item, please.
Item 96 is a resolution approving a temporary furniture zone extension on a portion of East 12th Street. Sponsors, Councilmembers Erickson and Jensen.
Mr. Chair.
Counselor Erickson.
I promise I have a very brief presentation. I hope everyone is still awake. Thank you for staying as long as you did. I'm sorry you were the last item tonight. What we have in front of you is what we did last year. Councilor Jensen and I had brought this pilot program forward again to ensure that they were able to do this bump out, or what we are calling a furniture zone. This expired back in October 31st of 21. Based on some statistics that Mary will share here in a while and talk about how this really impacted her business. Business increased 200% from August to September of 2020 to August to September of 2021. There are a lot of factors in there, but I am certain that this extra space and this outdoor usage is certainly helpful for her small business. This is limited to the front of the Breaks Coffee Roasting Company, and it was very minimal cost to the city. Through this process, we have worked together with downtown Sioux Falls as well as Mary to ensure that this is allowed again this year. You'll see the map has the proposed bump out for the streetscape. It only takes up one parking spot, and really there was no impact to the parking system for that. There was no data collection for that particular item. So you have a little statement up here. This was from downtown Sioux Falls last year as far as why parklets matter. They help businesses expand operations and draw energy and vibrancy to the areas that may be lacking. So I don't know if you've been to the breaks before, but where this particular area is located, this adds just a little attention outside, allows them to grow their outside seating and still allow people to social distance if that's what they choose to do. So I'd hope for you to extend this one more year as we move forward, and I would welcome Mary and her team to speak if they so shall choose. Thank you.
Anyone for public input on this item?
I drew the short straw. I get to go first. So Joe Batchelor with Downtown Sioux Falls Incorporated. That statement that Councilor Erickson shared is a good summation of why parklets matter. They help activate spaces, and we are social beings, and when there are gathering spaces full of people, we're naturally drawn to them. Cities that are more sociable in these regards can see a higher level of commerce in these areas, and which can help in turn provide greater tax base for the city. So it's a really low-cost way to provide an improvement that has the potential to have a lasting impact in an area. And just a little bit about parklets. You'll find them in almost every state. You'll find them on almost every continent. They've been around since 2005. I think last year was a good example of how we can do this here in Sioux Falls. A lot of downtown organizations will spearhead parklet programs. I'm not necessarily here to propose that, but we were supportive of the process last year. We would continue that support this year, help with any logistics. We have platforms that we can provide. We moved planters in place to provide protection from traffic for the pedestrians so that they had not only felt safe, but it was created a physical barrier that was safe for them to occupy the space. And it's just really an opportunity to create a kinder urban environment for people to inhabit in downtown Sioux Falls. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else for public input on this item?
I know it's been a long evening. I will be brief. I don't really have much to say that Joe didn't already say.
Could you state your name?
I'm sorry, Mary Campbell.
Thank you.
Co-owner of the Breaks Coffee Roasting Company on Sioux Falls here. All I want to say is it was just a really neat way to see all types of people organically come together on the street there. We had people from the neighborhood, the residential in the neighborhood, people that just happened to be walking by on the streets, people that were on their way to the multi-use trails, people that were on their way to and from Phillips Avenue, people that work downtown that are on their way to work, and just any type of folks you could imagine meeting together. At first it was just kind of, they were meeting by chance, but then I saw these people become friends and meet there on purpose. And that was something that was really cool and cost nothing, essentially. I think, I don't know if it was mentioned, but we constructed that parklet with pre-existing materials. So it was pallets from the beans we got, pallets from the paint store around the corner, just some of the regulars and supporters of the business that showed up with drills and bought some screws at Ace Hardware across the street, and there we went. So I'm a huge fan. We had 0 issues with it all summer. I'd love to see these go up elsewhere downtown. So thank you.
Any other public input on this item?
Jordan Deffenbaugh, Sioux Falls. I helped build said parklet for, I think, a few, 5 cups of coffee. And I can tell you this is a prototype in placemaking. This is a experiment in social collisions. It was an incremental project. It was a small scale source materials. And I say this because There are all sorts of projects like this that could be done not just in front of the breaks, but all over the city. Small incremental things that would take maybe a couple $100 in investment, if that. Some of it could be free if it's sourced. And I emphasize this, that we were at the end of this meeting. This is at 8:30. We came and sit here, and I appreciate any decision that's made and any words that are put forth. But to go further, how do we create a spirit of incrementalism in this community where these sorts of projects are championed, are funded, are put forth as solutions to social challenges? I was just hosting a forum this weekend at the Mission. It was the future of 8th Street. We had a diverse collection of individuals that were there, and there was all sorts of discussions about what are the incremental challenges that are on the 8th Street, in particular, a crosswalk. A crosswalk from it's Cliff to the railroad tracks. There is no crosswalk. Like, there's nothing. It's very dangerous to cross that street. Now, and I just say this as, how can the city, rather than having us approve this, just this single parklet, how do we create the culture of these small-scale investments? How do we create the culture where we have discussions about these small-scale investments? Much of what I'm talking about, I learned on the patio at breaks. Like, this is how it does. This is how you build culture. So I think that's all I want to say. Okay, bye.
Anyone else for public input on this subject?
So I want to this here, Broussard Sioux Falls. I want to clarify what the first speaker said, because my stomach's churning. I'd like to see more downtown. And then the second speaker said we would like to see it throughout the whole city. So I want to remind people, the rich people, that it's not all about downtown, that we can put these anywhere in the city. So while the rich people want to build these, she can go ahead and build some in Pettigrew Cathedral, All Saints, instead of just downtown. Because downtown don't make up all the city. We have thousands of people in the city. So when she basically is biased and says that I'd like to see more downtown, it's not all about downtown. So I just want to clarify that. Because with the rich people, the elite rich people, my stomach churns like I'm sick when they say stuff like this. Like I always say, drop down your $15 a glass of wine downtown and come to a barbecue in the poor section and have a beer.
Other public input on this subject?
Catherine Riffle here. I agree to what's being said, that we need these little outings spaces. Yes, we can put them around town. They don't all have to be downtown. And if you do get downtown near these sensitive areas as the Mission or the Dudley and places of caring for others, try not to bring in so much alcohol.
Other public input on this item? Councilors, questions?
Move to approve, Erickson.
Second, Jensen.
Go ahead.
A motion by Erickson, second by Jensen. Councilor Neitzer.
Yeah, the reason why this is so incredibly exciting, and Jordan touched on it, is that this isn't just about this thing. This could be a bigger movement, and I'm willing to buy you all the books if you'd like. You need to be reading things like Chuck Marone and Jeff Speck, Strong Towns Movement, Walkable City Rules. I actually bought 10 or 12 of them for Walkable City Rules for various city staff and said, you need to read this book. This is that tactical urbanism where you can try little things, doesn't cost anything, and you can find out that this can work before you make big investments. Because obviously it's very hard to get the impetus to do, $1 million project, but as they would teach, it should be do little incremental things, and then they start to add up. So if it could be the start of the entire movement and thinking differently, and then it also goes to the idea over there. There's roads over there, for example, in front of the post office that are way, way too wide. They're outrageously wide. They have no business being that wide. They're never going to be economic development over there like we want to see as long as the roads are the width of highways. It does not need to be that big, and it's incredibly expensive infrastructure. That sort of thing that they're doing brings in traffic calming, and when they saw the business came up, that's because when you make things walkable and you activate spaces, people want to be there and they spend more money. And that brings in more money for the city in tax dollars, not just that particular business. So this is the sort of thing we need to try and replicate and take chances, because people continue to do the same things. It's scary. People don't want to try different things, but it'll really open your eyes if you check those out. It's a movement, and it's making big strides. It's really exciting. So thanks for doing it, and thanks for bringing it forward.
Councilor Erickson.
Thank you. I'll just close by saying this particular location for the item that we brought forward is for downtown. That's the point. This was the address. And so this was a pilot program we tried last year. It worked. So we want to do it again. My hope, now I know I'm almost done, so I don't have time to work through the time to make sure it's in ordinance and there's a process in place that we can have this. Somebody else can take the torch at some point, but I wanted to make sure before I left that you get a parklet before we leave again, because I didn't know where the process would go from here. So my hope is that this is something permanent, not a permanent parklet, a temporary parklet, but a permanent program that we can keep doing some of these things, much like the fire pit we did at Josiah's. That's an area that you can collaborate, be around. The weather's different, whatever. It's just a way for people to communicate and get together. Why do we say downtown? Because it makes sense downtown. The streetscape is different. When you talk about some of the other areas and restaurants outside of downtown, those are called patios. So we don't need to put them out into the street like we do in this instance. And so I just want to make sure that's very clear. Development looks different all over. Downtown is unique in a lot of ways. We care about the whole city. This is just a great way that we can allow business to flourish, and also we can care for our community to have it be collaborative. How fun is it to run into people downtown over a cup of coffee or whatever? I mean, it's just a great space to work and get some sunshine. So thanks for your investment in that. Thanks to the city for partnering with us again and allowing it to happen. It's been great, and I hope you support it. Thank you.
Other comments? Councilor Brecky.
Just want to quickly weigh in. I'm also a huge fan of Chuck Moran's stuff. I'm just a huge fan. Bring it on. Councilmember Nitzert, I'm all in going forward.
All right. Let's call for a vote, please.
Council members Nitzert,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Next item. New business. Is there any other new business? Or are we going to try and get to 100 agenda items? We're pretty close. Seeing no new business, we'll jump into general public input. We are at the general public input portion of tonight's agenda. As a reminder, input during this portion will last no more than 3 minutes per person. During general public input, the public is welcome to speak on any topic that did not appear earlier in the regular agenda. At this time, I invite anybody for general public input to come forward.
Thank you, Counselor. So I want to reference, Emmett Rice-Stroffer, apologies. I know I've been here a few times. So I want to reference an item that was on the agenda, but not talking about it directly, if that's okay. So, you know, we learn about this budget surplus from the sales and use tax fund, $11.7 million. And I was very excited to see that, you know, the economy's doing well, tax revenue's coming in, and then we can use that money. We're in a good position. Other cities can't cover cost escalations. But I think when we talked about the Eat Well grant, which I'm a big supporter of, that's $400,000 to help alleviate food insecurity, which is what my comment's about, not the agenda item. Food insecurity is becoming a growing issue in Sioux Falls. And I looked through our financial reports, and from what I can tell, our tax collection on food and groceries has nearly doubled since 2019. And essentially, this is a very regressive tax that a majority of the country does not do. It's mostly in the hands of our state lawmakers, I get that. But I'm really urging you as our city leaders to take a serious look at why are we generating so much tax revenue off food and groceries? We get 11.7 million as a surplus, and now we're acknowledging that we have to return some of that back because there are folks in our community who don't have access to healthy food. So I've been told time and time again, this will never happen. You're crazy. They're never going to repeal sales tax on groceries. I don't care if people are going to call me names for coming up here and saying what needs to be said. I think it is morally wrong, and Sioux Falls has a leadership opportunity for the whole state to repeal the second penny sales tax on groceries. Then we can go, when we do that, I think it sets a tone in Pierre. They came close to passing a bill this year. If the state's largest city would have taken the lead on it, I think we would have maybe had a shot at changing that in Pierre. I just think it's morally wrong, and it's glaringly obvious when we see surpluses coming through, and we have to decide what are all the cool things we're gonna build with this money. That's exciting, but don't forget where some of that money is coming from, and it hits lower income people harder. We have, I counted 6 or 7 census tracts that have been considered vulnerable to this issue, but there's people all across the city in every precinct, because I'm meeting them and hearing from them, that are struggling with food costs. So I realize you can't tackle this overnight. I'm hoping 3, 4, 5 years, I don't know. Let's not say it's a crazy idea and just dismiss it entirely. We should get to work on trying to alleviate the tax burden on low-income families, especially on groceries. The vast majority of the country doesn't collect money that way. I don't think we should here either. So that's my public comment tonight, and thank you for listening to me. Have a good night.
Anyone else for public comment tonight?
Catherine Riffle here. I'm probably the last one to speak. Y'all have a good night when we leave here. I want to stress the fact that we need accountability for the vehicular homicides. We need our police departments to call them, the drivers, on their faults and have them charged accordingly. We need to have our representatives in government step up and say, look, there's a problem here. Let's do something about it. If it was your daughter, your son, your husband, your wife, your kids, well, you'd be out there with signs banging on doors and everything else. And I don't like the fact of labeling people. They are human beings. They did not deserve to die the way they died. And no one is being accountable to their basically bad ways. When you have a driver's license, you're going to have registration, driver's license, and insurance. You're not supposed to drink and drive. You're not supposed to be on your cell phone, even though some places don't have laws on that yet. But how many times do we have to keep losing people, men, women, and children, on traffic accidents? That shouldn't be happening. And when they do happen, we got to hold those drivers accountable. And if that means we got to take a badge and get a good cop to do that, then let's take that badge and get a good cop. If we need somebody to represent those people, then let's do that. Okay, let's let people live a decent life the best they can, no matter what their situation is. We all don't know the background of their situation, but that don't mean they should be just killed off and just left the drivers unaccountable. And that's my concern for tonight. And from here on out, I'm going to step up all the time now. Before I wasn't doing that, but I'm going to do it now. Somebody has to step up, and y'all have to hear it. If I have to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, I'm going to do it. Hold these drivers accountable. There's no reason for these deaths on the road. That's all I got to say. Have a good night.
Anyone else for public input tonight? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. We are adjourned. Stacy, another great performance by you.